Welcome everybody. It's B.A. Ben Abraham and Sister Ashanti Woods, and we're about to get into the this week's Torah portion concerning uh, Exodus 18, when Jethro he approaches the camp of the Israelites when Moses, after he led the revolution out of Egypt. We're going to cover that, but first we're going to open up in the Shema of Deuteronomy chapter 6. You want to read the Hebrew or no? We don't have to read the Hebrew today. We could just.
I could read the Hebrew if you want.
Okay. If you got it on you, or you can memorize it. Oh, you got it memorized?
I got some of it memorized, but it's always good to go into it.
All right. I'll read in English first, and then
well, I probably can't send the link since I have it on live, but if somebody can.
Hey, can you do me a favor, bro, and send me a link to the from the YouTube to my phone, so I can send it to others who's watching? They want to watch.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right. Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 to 6. The Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Ve'achabta et Yahweh Elohecha b'kol lebabecha ubekol nafshecha ubekol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadabarim ha'ele asher anochi mesawecha hayom al lebabecha. Amen.
Amen. Now I'm going to read in English, Deuteronomy chapter 6, pick up at verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart.
Mm-hmm.
May the Most High add a blessing to reading to the hearing of his word, his commandment. Again, we're going to start off in Exodus chapter 18. And prior to this, we read over, last week we were talking about the revolution that was led out of Egypt. The Most High used Moses to carry it out. And we noticed that, thanks, bro, appreciate it. And we noticed that that Israel did some complaining and some murmuring. We had some issues within the camp, within the setting, that they had some issues with each other as far as eating, and complaining about what kind of food they wanted, and they were always complaining about they were better off in Egypt. Now we're getting to a point to where Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, he's visiting the camp. He heard about what happened, and he's bringing Moses' children with him and his wife, and he's getting ready to bring Moses' family into camp so Moses can have his family with him while he's ruling over Israel. And we're going to pick it up in Exodus chapter 18.
Also during this parashah, excuse me. Also during this parashah, we're going to see the giving of the Torah, and we're going to bring out some points about the giving of the Torah, and the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, the Big Ten as they're called, and we're going to show that the Big Ten are actually just basically an overview that all of the rest of the 603 are connected to. All right. Shalom, shalom, Mishpacha, Kirsten.
Okay.
Thanks for joining in.
Okay, and just give me a moment.
All right. While BA is sending the link out, I know from myself, I just want to make this disclaimer. I'm just a vessel. Anything I say or bring out, anything I, bring out as far as information, it is for you to go back and verify and validate on your own. Pray, study, meditate. Make sure you have that personal relationship with the Father to bring you to a righteous, sound conclusion through the Holy Spirit. If there's always, questions, concerns, please let me know. I will give you my references, site sources, and things of that nature, so you can go back and study for on your own. If there's anything that's unclear, let me know, and I'll make sure I explain, try to be concise, and try to be thorough with the explanations there. So, sorry, I'm getting birthday shout-outs. Sorry. They've been going on all morning.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Toda.
We're going to get into it. We're going to pick it up at Exodus chapter 18. And I'll be reading from the Greek Septuagint. Exodus chapter 18, and we're going to pick it up in verse 1. And it says Jethro, we know Jethro in the Greek. And Jethro, the priest of Midian, the father-in-law of Moses, heard all that the Lord did to his people, Israel.
Mm-hmm.
For the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt, or Mizraim.
Mm-hmm.
And Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, took Sephora, the wife of Moses, after she had been sent away, and her 2 sons, the names which was Gershom, his father, saying, I was a sojourner in a strange land, and the name of the second Eleazar, saying,
Mm-hmm.
for the God or Elohim of my father is my helper,
Right.
and he has rescued me out of the land of Pharaoh. And Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, and his sons and his wife went forth to Moses into the wilderness, where he encamped on the mount of God. And it was told Moses, saying, behold, thy father-in-law Jethro is coming to thee, and thy wife and 2 sons with him. And Moses went forth to meet his father-in-law, and did him reverence, and kissed him.
Mm-hmm.
And they embraced each other, and he brought them into the tent. And Moses related to his father-in-law all things that the Lord or Yahweh did to Pharaoh and all the Egyptians for Israel's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Israel's sake, right?
That's right.
And all the labor that had befallen them in the way,
Mm-hmm.
and that the Lord had rescued them out of the hand of Pharaoh
Mm-hmm.
and out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro was amazed at all the good things which Yahweh did to them, for as much he rescued them out of the land of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh. Is there any points you want to make before I go further beyond verse 10? Anything?
Actually, if you can read one more verse, and then I'll bring something out.
Okay, 11?
Yeah.
All right. Let's read 10. And Jethro said, blessed be the Lord, because he has rescued them out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh. Notice how Jethro, who's a pagan and a stranger,
Yeah.
and he's saying, praise Yahweh.
Uh-huh.
That's fun. We're going to talk about that,
Yeah.
right? Let's go to verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
Now know that the Lord is great above all gods. Hold on, this is he worships another god here. But look what he's saying.
Right.
He said, a great above all gods, because of this wherein they attack them.
Mm-hmm. Read verse 12 too.
Verse 12?
Yeah.
And Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, took whole burnt offerings and sacrifices for God,
Right.
for Aaron, and all the elders of Israel came to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moses before God or Elohim.
Right. So,
Go ahead.
Jethro, a pure example of someone who's a part of the nation, and he has witnessed the reputation or the authority of Yahweh and what he has done for the people of Israel has reached him. And he's saying, you know what? Forget the mighty ones I thought were righteous. This one right here, if you taking down the big powerhouse of Pharaoh in Egypt, I'm going with you, right? I'm going with you. So Yitro was like, I'm joining on to Israel, onto the covenant. And even before the covenant, was being laid in Exodus 20, which we're going to get to, just the actions of what the Most High shows you, it should be enough, right? For us to pay attention, take heed, and want to come on to it. So he did. And in order to show or signify that Yitro came on and took the covenant, he offered up sacrifices.
And this is someone who we would call a heathen.
Yeah. So you're offering up sacrifices. That solidifies the deal of your conversion, so to speak. In celebration, people say, Shanti, what's eating. It's like sometimes it's very much important part of a celebration, like, a wedding feast, which we're going to talk about a wedding in a minute. But after a wedding ceremony, what do people do? You eat. You celebrate this covenant. And that's just what I wanted to bring out so far. Yes.
Go ahead, Elder.
Everybody at that time knew who the eternal Father was.
Come on.
But they didn't serve him. They know there was one, but they didn't serve him.
Good point.
So when he showed his power. So he had to believe.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had to say about that.
And notice he went to Moses, right? So Moses is verbatimly telling him, "Man, Jethro, look what happened, bro." Like, man. And then all of a sudden you
Jethro's
had,
like, I know.
Yeah, I know. And I'm hearing that he talking to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And man, so and then it said Aaron and the rest of the elders of Israel joined them. What's that old saying? More than two witnesses. And he's in the midst. And then all of a sudden we got a representative, Moses. Because we know Moses at this point, right now, he is the representative, he is the image right now of the Most High. And we know this is the shadow of Christ. So the thing is that the Most High is being observed, he's being respected, he's being praised by a foreigner because he has the witnesses around him. So guess what? The Most High is going to allow Jethro to offer a sacrifice. Because he paid homage to a guy of another nation. Even though we know Jethro is a descendant of Abraham. He is, technically he is. Because Midian is a son of Abraham, I believe, from the Keturah. Is it Keturah? I think it is. Abraham's wife, Keturah. His the one that died. I mean, after Sarah died, Abraham had another wife. Yeah.
I can bring something up on that later.
I know we talked about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I think it was Hagar, was it?
Well,
could have been.
There is a saying that Keturah was the same woman
I've heard
as
that before
Hagar.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a saying. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying go back and research the saying for yourself. Brother Yochanan, shalom, shalom. You said, what chapter are we on? We're on Exodus chapter 18. We just finished reading verses 1 to 12. All right?
Yeah.
All right.
That's something I'd like to bring out.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something me and BA was talking about over the last week. And so when we read these things, it's like, I believe we don't pay attention to what day of the week was this.
Come on.
Uh-oh.
We're going to be
Because it doesn't say,
Yeah.
but because when we're looking at verse 12, he gave a tithe and an offering, right? And he say a burnt offering and sacrifices. And they gathered and they prepared a meal before God. So when do we do that?
We do that every day.
Is this not a Shabbat scripture?
Come on.
We don't read into that.
Yeah.
So then when everybody say, well, we don't do this and this, and then I listen to what you all said. You said praise and worship.
Come on.
You said celebration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that not Shabbat?
That's rest.
But we don't.
And we supposed to
read
rejoice?
Shabbat into these scriptures.
Yeah.
Beautiful
We're looking
point.
for the word Shabbat.
Yeah.
And then if it's not Shabbat, then we throw it away.
Beautiful point.
And then we argue about Shabbat. But so now, we can get into
that's the spirit.
The cook that did his thing, but here you're talking about Jethro. They were honoring Shabbat.
Yeah.
They knew to honor Shabbat. They knew who the Most High was. Leon said
Because Shabbat mean rest, don't it?
And this is what we do, but we don't teach that.
Because you know why? Because we're doing this.
Because we haven't even got to Exodus 20.
Nah.
But they're already
keeping it.
Because we're leading into Passage, right? That's why we're doing the Yitro now, right?
Exactly.
So here we are. You don't just do Shabbat. You don't just do Passage. You do Shabbat leading up to Passage.
Yes, sir.
So,
and another thing, just to land back, we're busy looking for, and Jethro did a sacrifice, and it was the Sabbath day, thus saith God.
But everything we know about the Shabbat is exactly what we read through in 1 through 12.
That's powerful. The Spirit revealed that. The Most High put that upon you.
Well, it was in my notes, so.
I mean, yeah, but he revealed it. He revealed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Things get revealed when you're seeking. You know what I mean? And what you just said is going to be extra confirmed as we go along. Yeah.
And it's a stranger. it's a stranger.
They already told us, but when we go further, we didn't realize what we just read. We didn't recognize.
Come on.
That because we didn't see Saturday.
Right.
So we're thinking Shabbat is about Saturday.
Exactly. Turn to Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8. We're gonna go to a somewhat of a similar situation. Matthew chapter 8. What's going on, Art? Shalom, right?
Shalom.
We're going to pick it up at verse 5, I believe.
I know where,
And this is the Messiah. the one we understand to be Yeshua the Christ. And, and it reads, Matthew chapter 8, verse 5, for those who are listening. When he entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, appealing to him, saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home, paralyzed, in terrible distress. And he said to him, I will come and cure him. The centurion answered, Lord, I am not worthy. Ain't that something?
Centurion, or some translations say captain.
Or a Roman soldier, or some kind of general, some kind of person
he had a high position.
with some status. Exactly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To have you come under my roof. But he said, I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only speak the word and my servant will be healed. This is a foreigner.
Come on.
This is a Roman.
Yes.
A pagan.
Yes.
A heathen.
Yes.
And he said, hey, nah, I know who you are. I done heard, I done witnessed, I done heard your stories. You ain't even got to come to my house. Just say the words. I know he going to be healed. Now, we got a wicked generation in the wilderness right now, right? And they seen all the miracles. They saw all the signs. And you know what they telling Moses? We were better off in Egypt.
What chapter are we again?
Matthew chapter 8.
Like I said, just to summarize that whole story, because it's saying centurion mean 100. I have 100 men under me.
Yeah.
And if I say go,
Come on.
he's going to go.
Yeah.
If I say come, he's going to come.
Exactly.
So I understand authority
Mm.
because I have people under me.
Mm.
They respect my authority. So now I understand the authority of God.
Yes.
That's the purpose of the story.
And we call ourselves Israelites, and we don't know what the term authority even means. Ain't that something? And we supposed to have all the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding, but when it comes to authority, we think it's making someone submit to our personal agenda or will, or keep your head covered. That's how you show my authority.
So like I said, we were saying God is a spirit. So
Yes.
all you have to do is speak the word.
Yes.
And whatever you speak is going to happen. Because I understand authority.
I'm going to keep reading on. That's a good point, Brother Durrell. Good point.
Keep reading on in Matthew 8.
Yeah, Matthew chapter 8.
Okay.
I'm going to pick up verse 9. For I also am a man of under authority, with soldiers under me, and I say, go to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my slave do this, and to the slave does it, and to the slave does it. And this is verse 10. And when Christ, or Yeshua, heard him, he was amazed and said to those who followed him, truly I tell you, in no one in Israel have I found such faith. Ain't that something? And it goes back to Jethro. In this situation in Israel, prior to Jethro coming, we have a stiff-necked, hard-head people who saw the visions, the miracles, who saw the signs, who saw the wonders, who saw their enemies and their oppressors be destroyed, and they're murmuring against Moses. But Jethro comes along, a foreigner, a stranger, a pagan, a heathen, and he recognized what's going on. And then we have a Roman right here who's a pagan again, who keeps other traditions of whatever gods he served.
Right.
But he was like, I know who you are. You ain't even got to come to my house. All you got to do is just say the words, and I know that my peoples will be healed. That's faith.
Yes.
So again, you talk about the Jethro and the Roman soldiers. They're already living the word.
Yeah.
And so I found someone already living this word, and we're looking at people because they go to some church.
Come on.
There are a lot of people that go to nobody's church.
Right.
That actually live
That
the word.
actually lived it.
But we don't, that's not the credentials we look for in a man.
Let me read on. Verse 11. I tell you, many will come from the east and the west and will eat with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the heirs of the kingdom will be thrown into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Verse 13. And to the centurion, Christ said, go, let it be done for you according to your faith. And the servant was healed in that hour. That's faith. That's faith.
Yes.
Were they politicking over how they kept a Sabbath? No. That's not the issue here.
Or rather, he worked that day.
Yeah. But it's
I was in the military, so you know, we work every day.
yeah.
And we you know, our commanders say go, we go
Right.
because we understand authority.
Yeah.
You know, and so and like I said, they in return we do a good job. They give us furlough, they give us leave,
Yeah.
they give us our time. You know, but if the enemy on the other side of the hill, we working today.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
Oh, and we'll go over you know, a couple of types of work.
Look,
Go ahead.
I'll say, kind of with this example and what you're saying there, Wilson, is you're going to get that a lot from people who are within the camp, whether the camp is win or lose. You're going to get division amongst people because you got people who always think something should be done slightly different. Where you're going to find commonality at is against the person you defeated, because you just crushed all their beliefs and hopes.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
yeah, exactly.
It's like they say, for the Indians who have faith, the spirit sticks in rocks.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And then somebody came with some guns
Ooh.
and took their land.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden you got Indians really paying attention to what religion these people are bringing over, because they like, our God gave us rocks, our God gave you guns.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Right.
Who really wanted them to survive?
Dang, that's a good point.
So,
That's a very good point.
you're going to have those individuals who are, regardless of where they come from, are going to be steadfast in their faith, because they were steadfast in their faith to begin with, but they
Come on.
realized they were wrong.
Yes.
And that's the most powerful thing, is when someone can understand that they were defeated righteously, not wrong, but actually defeated righteously, they're more adept to listen and willing to pay
You
more
right. Attention. Yep.
It ain't gonna be everybody, but it's
Yeah.
gonna be the ones who, like he said, like, look, I'm the one with authority. I tell them when to jump, when not to jump. They don't have enough sense to think for themselves, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So, and he recognized. So that's kind of a way to also look at where people are coming from.
Mm.
Right. Right. And this is the Father looks at the heart. He says there is one Torah, one law for the native born and the stranger. You know, and if we have the Torah or the law, statutes, and commandments that constitute the best morals and ethics, why would not we want these people to come into this covenant, into this agreement, into this fold? If it's going to have them be civil human beings, right? We want them to come over into this.
Exactly. And
So,
and the more bickering that we do,
Yeah.
the more damage we're doing.
Yeah.
Because, see, Sis brought this up a few days ago. We always talking about the Christian. And the way that we bicker at each other, we understand why they don't want nothing to do with this walk. Because we go back and forth over, should I wear this, or should I do this, or should I tie this, or should I do that? We're busy going back and forth over minor stuff that it's not going to save you. We're busy fighting each other. Like when you go to war, you have two opposing sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, one side you got everybody going at each other's neck. The other side's like, oh wow, we ain't gotta do nothing. Just sit back and watch them. So my point is that if we're gonna call ourselves Israel or whatever we personify ourselves to be, let's stop focusing on the outside things.
come on.
And let's like I said last week, let's continue to pray
Yes.
that the Most High uses those who are walking right
Yes.
as the light to provoke others to come unto him.
Hallelujah.
Moses also said to Israel, I think it's in Exodus chapter 16, draw near to him, draw near to the Father. He didn't mean literally walk to him. Draw your heart to him.
Hallelujah.
How is it that you're going to be a light to somebody when you're always pointing the finger and you're always disagreeing with them?
Ooh.
It's the issue. We're always doing that to the Christian, and we see why they kick the most.
Yeah.
Why they like I don't want to. Maybe if you would show some compassion, because see,
Hallelujah.
everybody always go with the law.
Hallelujah.
Oh, we keep the law, we keep the Torah, we 100, we do this. But the issue is that you're saying that you keep the law, you're using the law to cut,
Yes.
but you're also commanded to show love and mercy.
Hallelujah.
I'm not justifying unlawlessness. I'm not.
Yes.
But when are we going to get to a point to where we show some compassion instead of just always cutting with the sword?
Yes.
Ain't nobody going to want to join you and come on to you always cutting all the time. It's not going to happen. you're going to continue to get the fighting and the twisting and the kicking. It's going to keep happening.
It'll happen when people put limits on their leadership.
Man.
And that's that's the seed of division, is people feeling like they're gaining some type of power or leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, and in actuality, like if you're in something to help people, there's really not an ascension of leadership that you're looking for. There's more of a
Ego.
No, I mean you're looking to obtain the ability to educate masses, which is a good thing. But you always want to educate them with good information.
Yeah.
But when you begin to dilute your information based on the fact that now you want to be seen under this light, or you want to now, because you see this person's audience growing, you want to, instead of continue to steady down your path, throw shots and attack at this group over here and that person over here. That's fear of losing your power, fear of losing your leadership over people, instead of remaining an educator and teaching the lessons that's put on your heart. And so I think if people kind of learn the difference between being the ultimate educator versus trying to lead a group, their hearts are softened in the form of,
That's a good point.
you know, I don't need so much to hate this person as I do need to strengthen my message, you know, and be stronger in my faith, right? Because, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, as the Bible says and everything else, like I say, we got choices. And instead of trying to strangle the choice away from people, give them an option to really understand why they would want to choose this path versus the other.
Exactly. See, and like I said, that's how your light shines.
Hallelujah.
But when you give them this alternative, oh, if you don't do this right, you're a sinner. And what?
You have to remember the word is a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yes, it cuts both ways.
So what you say will come back to you the other way.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you condemn somebody,
Come on.
you just basically condemn yourself.
Ooh.
It's coming back at you.
Mm.
That's why he said, love your enemy.
Yes.
Don't speak bad about your enemy.
Yes.
Yeah, and and we call ourselves to be Christ-like. Christ said to pray for those that come against you and curse you.
He did.
Yeah, say blessing over.
Yeah,
Don't curse
curse them. And so that's why I was saying, are we even praying for each other? I don't believe it. I'm convinced we're not.
Well, like I said, that's the definition of judgment, because the words say, whatever you measure out,
Yes.
it's going to be measured back to you.
Back unto
So
you.
if you measured out love, then you'll
Yes.
receive love. But if you measured out hate, you're going to get hate.
Yeah, most definitely.
Judgment is immediately.
Right.
Exactly.
But yeah, because I remember it was the story with Elijah when he healed Naaman in the muddy Jordan, and his servant went back after
Well,
him.
yeah, the
He
servant
said-
went back.
he
Yeah.
said, did not my heart go out with you?
Yep.
You know, and so it's about an act of love, and so
Yes.
same thing for those of us who marry. You know, we go out in the world, but our love, you know, is still with us.
Yes.
So that's how we're able to maintain our obedience. And so the Lord said, "This is how I know if you love me,
Come on.
because you obey my commandments."
Yes.
You know, and so while you think nobody's looking, I'm
Yeah.
looking.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm
Right.
always watching you. You know?
Exactly.
Is there anything else in Exodus 18 you want to bring out?
Could you read verses 14?
Verse 14.
Actually, yeah, read verses 14 to 21, and I just want to make a point after that. Just
All right.
one point, because it's gonna
Okay.
tie into what's next.
All right.
Sorry.
Verse 14. Exodus 18. We're going to pick up at verse 14 for those who are listening. And Jethro, having seen all that Moses did to the people, saying, What is that thou doest to the people? Wherefore sittest thou alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning to evening? And Moses said to his father-in-law, because the people come to me to seek judgment from God. For whenever there is a dispute among them, and they come to me, I give thee judgment upon each, and I teach them the ordinances of the Most High, and his Torah. And the father-in-law of Moses said to him, Thou doest not this thing rightly. Thou wilt wear away with intolerable weariness, but those in all this people which is with thee, this thing is hard. Thou wilt not be able to endure it thyself alone. Yeah, that's a lot of work, man. You dealing with Israel, man.
Come on.
Now then, hearken to me, or listen, and I will advise thee, and God shall be with thee. Order. See, the Most High is a God of order.
Yes.
And I just want to say this real quick before we go on. We always tend to say, do everything in decency and order, where we call ourselves want to put our women in their place. But we don't ever want to use that and apply it to us men when we're out of order. Because we think that males are just sinless. There's nothing we can do wrong. We just whatever. But we use decency and order, or the Most High God is a God of order, when it's time to tell our women to just be, no, sit over there, shut your mouth and be quiet and let me take care of everything. It goes both ways. And this is and Jethro is instructing Moses. No, to show some order, to show that this God is on point, you're gonna have to conduct yourself a whole lot better. The way you're doing things, you're gonna wear yourself out, and you're not going to be effective. So let's set some things up. I understand the Most High could have put this on Jethro. For Moses to do this, because Moses took heed to it. But let's keep going.
Well, the whole thing is real quick before you just skip over, because you're about to skip over the whole beautiful part of that point. Is Jethro's a foreigner. So you got a foreigner who came in and bowed down to your ways and listened to your ways, right, in order to, was the save a servant or not, or
In order to let Moses know,
right.
like, what you're doing is going to wear you out.
At the same time, he's still who he is. So he recognizes the flaws in something, and so for Moses to be who he is, had to have an open ear and listen to that.
Exactly.
Good point.
Because you can't just shut. You can't just be like, all right, listen to me. Now I'm shutting you down. He like, yo, I heard you, and now if you allow me to speak with you, we can really help you organize this to keep it to create longevity versus
getting stressed
you
out.
wear yourself out. Do it for 10 days versus 10,000 years.
Right.
And so, because he had the ear to listen, he was
right.
able to create order.
Exactly.
That's what make a good leader too. What you're saying is, even though I'm a leader, I could still take some advice because I don't know everything.
That's the only way to make a leader, because if you notice, leaders have counsel.
Man.
Oh,
So,
see,
you gotta have counsel, because there's no one person that can make every decision.
Come on.
What would have happened if Moses would have been like, I hear the voice of the Most High. I don't need you.
He wouldn't have been the one chosen to hear the voice of the Most High.
Exactly.
Because the Most High used different vessels.
That has to be. The whole thing is the basics have to be the basics.
Come on.
People have to understand, even reading, coming into a story, whatever. Like, the Father's not putting these individuals in these positions because he pulled a name out of a hat.
Come on.
Like,
He pushed you there for a reason.
They're able to follow the basic instructions. Like, so, because they're able to follow the basic instructions and take that and really live by it, that makes them special. And people say how? Because a majority of people, especially during that time period, could not follow basic instructions. They needed to be led versus teach. So, I mean, it's just because he's able to follow basic instructions, he has that in him to know if you can hear me, I need to be able to hear you too.
Exactly.
Without too much pride.
And Moses had to humble himself, even though he had a position.
Right.
He had some authority. Well, now I won't say he had authority, but the Most High had given him rule over Israel. So Moses was able to humble himself and listen to somebody and take some advice that's gonna most definitely help.
Who was also being used by the Most High at that point. That's what Brother Daryl was bringing out.
Well, I mean, it's basically
In a
like,
foreigner.
It's basically like growing up with somebody and they go on to become a professional athlete. And they come back to their hometown and you're their best friend. So to you, they're still whoever they are, even though these other people look at them as a certain person of some sort of stature. They still remember who they are when they're around their family.
Exactly.
So they're on this level regardless of whether the people uplift them to a certain position. They recognize
You're
that
right.
they still need to be on the level.
Yes.
And that's crazy you said that about they grew up with this person and they seen them grow up to what they are now. Remember, Moses ran from Egypt and went into Jethro's house. Moses didn't have nothing.
Yeah.
So Jethro, like, I know you. I knew you before the Most High started using you, and I know your character, and I know your God got good sense of picking who he needs to represent him.
Right.
So since I understand who your God is, and I know your God knows who you are, I know who you are. Listen to this. This may help. Humble. Yes, sir.
And also, like you said earlier, Jethro was from what,
Midian.
Yeah.
Well, they grew up with Abraham.
Exactly.
That's set.
So they know.
They recognize it.
That's that area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they recognize who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think that the sons of Abraham didn't know who Yahweh was? All of a sudden, oh, you're the sons of Abraham. Get up out of here. like.
He stayed with them, so he taught them.
Yeah, because it says in Genesis 18 that Abraham, for the Most High said, "For I know him, and he would train his household and teach them my ways."
Yeah, so he trained them all.
Exactly. So Jethro has some understanding or some type of knowledge or some. Jethro also means remnant. Ain't that something?
Yep.
So he remembered.
Because you're talking about what's already established. So when Moses met Jethro was already established.
Exactly.
Because
He was a priest.
That Moses was impressed with Jethro when he met him.
Right.
His land, his daughters, everything about his household was established.
Yep.
So same thing when Yeshua came upon the centurion, he was already established.
Yep.
There was no teaching. He was already taught. He was already raised. He was already living the word.
You need the basic fundamentals.
So now here Moses don't have an argument with following Jethro because he's already established as a leader.
That's a good
I've already recognized you as somebody that I can follow.
Yes, sir.
Was he a priest?
Yeah, he was a priest.
So he was just
like a,
so he was also a foreign authority as well.
Right.
exactly, because he was a big wig in his religion. I mean, he had I think he had another name called Ruel.
That got like
means
7 names.
Yeah, and I think that name Ruel means to be friend of God or something of that nature. But the thing is that he had a reputation. If you're a priest of out of Midian, another nation, and that back in these times, priests were very highly respected. So he may have had a following of who knows how many people. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir.
He knows the covenant because his daughter knows the covenant.
Yep.
Because when Moses was going, leaving, the son was circumcised. She knows the circumcised.
Yeah.
She said, the Lord is trying to kill you.
Yeah, she like I said, you don't think Jethro taught his daughters?
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You see how we can put things together?
Yeah.
Common logic,
Yeah.
common sense, instead of religious zeal and doctrine.
Oui.
Wow, ain't that something?
I just want to point out real quick.
Go ahead, brother.
Verse 12, he was saying, it says,
Exodus 18?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Exodus 18. It says basically after he did the offerings and sacrifices for the Most High, it says Aaron came and all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law.
Yeah.
So all the elders, all authorities of Israel came together, was like, let's sit down with him. So they even recognized that this was a great foreign rulership as well.
Yeah. They recognize the man. Exactly. They recognize this man. They recognize his character.
Right.
They recognize his stance.
Right.
They were like, it's something that resonated with them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like it's something about it. Like, okay, we see this man's example. We may not believe in the God he came from.
Yeah.
But we see the steps, we see the character, we see the morals, we see how he's presenting himself in front of Moses and humbling himself because he's coming from a whole nother doctrine. Ain't that something?
So before you walked in, we was talking. So he gave an offering, tithe and offering, brought all the leaders, and they shared a meal before God. So what day was it? When do we do all those things?
Every day.
Every day.
And
When the Sabbath says they were having Shabbat.
they were resting now. And let me just stress to those who are watching, we're not advocating against the Sabbath. We're not advocating against Saturday. We're making a spiritual connection here. What the elder was talking about, he was saying that they were resting. They were doing Shabbat. We don't know which day they did it, but they were keeping the principle of Sabbath.
We'll reiterate that too as we go along of what constitutes a Sabbath, because I think what constitutes a Sabbath is probably not clear and concise, and we'll also talk about different kinds of work. That's probably not clear and concise as well.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Definitely. During different Jewish cultures,
Yep.
it varied. But
Exactly.
we haven't even got to the giving of the law and we're already seeing it.
Right.
Do we think that? I mean, because I kind of skipped over it too, but it was the father-in-law who gave the sacrifices.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
coming. He was coming
Jethro.
on.
Was that
Yeah.
his conversion?
Yeah.
Ain't that something?
See, he caught it.
Yeah, you caught it. You caught it.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. See, that's the spirit of them. That's you being a person who's
Hallelujah.
allowing the Most High to
He
oppose
came
His will upon you. Because we had brought that up earlier. You just
okay.
and then you automatically was on point
That's how
with
we
it.
know.
So that's how I know you did
That's
your studying this
beautiful.
week. That's how we know, bruh. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, what was I reading at earlier? I stopped at where?
You stopped
18?
at,
Was it 18? Yeah, it was 18. No, I'm sorry, 19.
Yeah, reading it. Yeah.
Now then, hearken to me, and I will advise thee, and God shall be with thee. Be thou to the people in the things pertaining to God, and thou shalt bring their matters to God. And thou shalt testify to them the ordinances of God in his Torah, and thou shalt shew them the ways in which they shall walk in the works which they shall do. Keep going.
Read verse 21.
21. And do thou look out for thyself out of all the people, able men, fearing God, righteous men, hating pride, and thou shalt set over 5 the people captains of thousands, and captains of hundreds, and captains of 50s, and captains of 10s.
Read verse 22.
22.
Mhm.
And they shall judge the people at all times,
Mhm.
and the 2 burdensome matters they shall bring to thee. But they shall judge the smaller cases, so they shall receive thee and help thee.
Now, the elders, this is where we're getting the council of the 70 elders being brought in. And if you read what was it? Exodus 24.
This chapter right here is why law officials used to have to be voted into office
Exactly.
instead of them just getting a job.
Come on.
Because it had to be people you trust to uphold the law.
Law.
And that's respecting your community, not just somebody who said an oath. Like, they have to actually prove that that's who they were.
Exactly.
Right. And so this is 70 elders, and we're also going to see more things about the number 70. So Exodus 24, verse 1, I'm reading from the scriptures, ISR, says, And to Moshe, or Moses, he said, Come up to Yahweh, you and Aaron, and Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and you shall bow yourselves from a distance. So this right here solidifies that the number of the council that Yitro was said to get is 70, but we're also going to make some connections of 70, you know, as we go along, and we're going to connect it back to Genesis. That's what I wanted to bring out.
All right.
You all was talking about, when you mentioned order. And so it says, teach them the laws and what work they should do.
Yes.
So anytime we talk about work, there's always an order to the work.
Come on.
Because we don't just do work out of order. Well, that's
Right.
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 So we there's always, God, like I said, God, it is order. So
Steps,
everything
yeah.
He sets is in order.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we say we don't work, or He said we don't do ordinary work, and then Yeshua said, the work that I do now you do.
Uh-huh.
So now the work we're doing is an established work that is a specific order to the work.
Exactly.
So He says, teach them this.
Yeah.
What work they're supposed to be doing.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Ain't that
brother
something?
Darryl.
And do it in the order that I told you. Know, same thing with the Ark of the Covenant. Everything He did, He said, do it like this in
Yes.
this order.
The actions, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to be effective. And so
Right.
Jethro recognized, this is working.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I'm doing, it works.
Yeah.
So keep on doing it.
Exactly.
Right.
And the thing is, he said to pick able men.
Yes.
When you look into Hebrew, the word is chayo.
Chayil.
Height. There you go.
Is that that's strength, valor?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
and it's in the concordance. It's 24:28, and like I said, it says a force, whether of men of other resources in the army, wealth, virtue, valor, strength,
Mm-hmm.
and it also means men of action.
Mm.
So when Moses and the 70 elders and Jethro, what they're doing here, okay, you got to pick these certain individuals over these many groups of people. Make sure that these men have some type of integrity,
Yes.
that they're able to act willingly once they get their job
And not take a bribe.
and not take a bribe. Because we can read
Right.
that in Exodus 21. I mean, not to be a judge, be a man of what is it, Exodus 21. Not to be a righteous judge. Don't take no bribes and things of that nature. There you go, Elder. Thank you. And the thing is that these men, they have to be willing and ready to act accordingly to what the law says, or what the Torah says.
Right.
So that's another thing we need to pay attention to.
Show no partiality.
Exactly.
No
be
respecter
fair.
of persons. Right.
And it also says, I think it's Proverbs 11, the Most High God is a God of fair balances.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to remember that as well.
Yes.
So when we are in leadership positions over a body of people, it's best that we be fair, and especially because we always want to say, well, the Most High chose me to do it. Well, if you're gonna use His name, you better make sure you come correct at all times. You know what I'm saying? I just want to stress that before we go to Exodus 19. Or anything else? Any questions, comments, observations? Anybody?
Yeah, I want to comment. I know maybe it's about maybe a month or two ago, but I was online and I saw a video by, I think it was God, I forgot his name. I just had to, but he was a brother. He wasn't a Messianic Hebrew, but he was a Hebrew, and he was basically saying how there was about like disputes that goes on in the community, and he was saying that he made an analogy that when the Most High, urged, Jethro to basically give Moses this advice to choose 70 men, and he was saying when he chose 70 men, he now has 70 different opinions to work with. And then he says, with Moses and with the Most High, you have 72. Now you have 72 opinions to work with rather than just one limited perception to help guide the people in your community.
Ain't that something?
That's a beautiful
And I think
thing.
that's where, if as a community, if we want to grow, even with those Hebrews you might not even like or whatever,
You gotta be willing,
Right.
some kind of bridge.
Yeah, some type of bridge to come together with like he says, based on these conditions, men who reverence Elohim, men who hate covetousness and all that stuff like that, and you choose these men or even or brothers or whatever, but you have different people that can see different perspectives that can catch something that you didn't see.
Yep.
And we
Good
still kind of follow after, things in Christianity. I'm not trying to get on that, but we kind of pick up on these things where we have this one man leadership and this one mind, but then we have in another denomination, we have another man's mind, one set leadership. Then we have another denomination, one set mind, one set leadership. But really, it should just be these leaders coming together and having opinions, and not just saying, "Oh, this is what it says and this is what it says," but to find what's the best way to lead the people in your community.
Exactly.
That's what we need. And I'm just using that as an analogy.
That's a very good analogy.
If we want to build a community, we're going to need to reach out and have brothers do what's best for the community.
Yep.
Some things we might not just be able to apply every single thing being outside of the land of Israel, but we still need to see what's best for our people.
Hallelujah.
Now,
you speak
and to say what you just said, when we come to these terms and these different decisions and having these different opinions that come across each other, because last week, remember we made the decision, or we came to a conclusion. Let's avoid kindling the fire. But if there's a need, do it.
Exactly, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, when the brother was here, or if you want to avoid it, but if you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, or if you need to, based on a need.
Exactly.
So, what's kindling the fire?
We'll
we'll get into that. We're just about literally. Yeah.
But you want to address it now?
Yeah. What's kindling the fire? For clarity sake, just if I had to get a definition from each person, what would you say kindling the fire is?
Well, from go ahead.
You talk.
Well, from the Hebrew, that's where I'm just going to come from. From the Hebrew, it means either to start or burn, or, strike up a fire. The context of kindling a fire is probably not clear and concise when people are reading. They're not reading a few verses before, and they're not reading a few verses after to look at all the circumstances, all the situations that going on in an event
Okay, so with all that being said, if we on Jeopardy and I ask you, what is your definition of killing a fire? What are you gonna tell me?
Just what I told you.
No. Okay, so based on you having read everything around it and knowing what's there before.
Okay, in the context of kindling a fire, it usually comes up at Exodus 35, verse 3. The context that I look at when I'm looking at the Hebrew specifically, it's saying not to kindle a fire for work, which is that type of work, which is in the Hebrew, it's melacha. Melacha is occupational work for money.
Going to work, your job.
Occupational work for money. So don't kindle a fire to do occupational work for money. In that context, in Exodus 35 and Exodus 36, Exodus 37, Exodus 38, because I'm giving you thorough, and sorry I got to do this. They were given instructions to build the tabernacle. You got gold, you got silver, you got bronze.
And were they working? But were they doing occupational work?
Occupational work for money. Labor. And let me give this example if I could. Yeah. And if anybody shares a different view, that's cool. I'm just bringing out from the Hebrew text. I read the Hebrew text. The Hebrew text, right? There's melacha, occupational work for money. Then there's abad. There's abad, which is a work as a service. Say, for example, you're in your home, right? I got dogs in my home, right? If I got some company coming over and my dog's in shed, I need to sweep. If I didn't use the bathroom, I need to flush. And it also shows in here where the children of Israel, they had the dirt where they had to dig up, because the Father was in the midst of them. Do you think, I'm just asking a question, do you think that when you went to the bathroom that you could just leave it out? No, he said, I'll get to that. I think it's Exodus 23, but
he said dig a hole, cover it up.
Dig a hole, cover it up. That's abide. You have to do things that are necessary, especially for sanitary reasons. But that's a work you do, not occupational work. That's a work to take care of yourself. That's a work to take care of your community. I mean, people getting sick. We got to make sure these germs are cleared out. You know what I'm saying? So we have to differentiate between melacha, which is work for occupational pay, right? And abad, which is service labor, right? That you do necessarily for yourself. Now, I will say this. We do abad when we do abad or service or work, right? When we're taking care of our necessary needs on a daily basis. We need food, we need sustenance, we need to make sure we're clean and sanitized. That's what I will say. So kindle a fire, when that comes up, that's Exodus 35 and 3. Usually people don't read all the verses after that. There's gold, there's silver. When you're kindling a fire, especially for people people who work on welders. Right? We know a welder, my husband and I. That fire is hot, steaming hot. You gotta have that fire steaming hot to get the metal to shape. So the Father's saying, pretty much, when you building this temple, don't do no melacha, don't do no occupational work for money. The regular work you gotta do, which is service for one another, which is taking care of your necessary needs, cleaning up after yourself, making sure people have some sustenance to live. Go ahead and do that. And we'll differentiate in that when we get to Exodus 20 verses 9 and 10. Does that answer your question, Brother Darrell?
So, yes, but I'm just looking at this chapter here.
Before I go on, I know I don't live in Chicago, but I know some people who live in Chicago. I know some people who live in New York, and it's cold. If you talking about people can't light up a fire, that means you can't turn on your heater. That means you can't give yourself some warmth. You're gonna freeze. How is the Sabbath supposed to be a delight and a joy if you freezing to death?
Okay. I'm glad you said that. How is cutting on your heater lighting a fire?
Combustion. That's what some people do. But I will say this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. First of all, who told you that that's how a heater works? Who came in here and said that that's how a heater works?
Nobody.
No, we didn't say that.
We didn't say that. This is
an example. It's an example.
These are examples of what.
But I'm asking, is this what people when this comes up?
This is what some people. Yes, do? This is what some people bring up.
So basically, what I'm getting from this is because y'all always took it as never light a fire in your home, as basically don't stoke anger.
That could be it too.
Don't
exactly.
Cause drama,
Hallelujah.
Don't cause people to fight and fuss and be separate during this time period. You know what I'm saying?
Hallelujah.
Like, that's how I took it personally, but I was always curious how everybody else took it, because I hear people say all the time, "Oh, well, you can't cook." Why? Microwaves don't use fire; they use electricity. So this is like we're touching different levels of now we're touching different levels of science, which we're quote unquote not even supposed to integrate with specifics of this time period. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
Like, I'm sorry, they didn't have light switches back then.
You're right. So they needed some fire to see. Right?
I don't, like, in my humble opinion, that's not perfect. I don't believe the Father want nobody walking around a dark home stubbing their toes all day hitting cement walls trying to figure out they left from right because they couldn't see. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need, like...
But that's logic. That's logic, Daryl.
But again, at what point... Because again, remember earlier we touched on these people being selected to be in the position they were in because they had the ability to think basically.
Yeah, basic. Yep, there you go.
So
there you go.
With that capability, at what point do we teach the necessity to think basically before we start getting to the intricacies of what this and this and that means? Like, so prior to someone, it's hard for someone to say, my opinion is 100% valid because I feel this, this, and this, if there's no basic foundation of them establishing themselves to be this type of scholar to where, okay, you understand this word this way, this way, this way, and it's always 100% true. Like, in cases like this, it almost seems that we have such a push and pull because of a lack of understanding. Like, okay, people say, well, like, because I've heard it before, well, you can't cook on the Sabbath. That's not true, because I could put it in my microwave. If you want to get technical, I didn't use my oven. If you want to get technical, or I have an electric stove. So if you want to get technical, I still cooked with a different form of heat, even though it wasn't fire. But at no point does it say to fast every Sabbath. So if I'm not instructed not to eat, that means I need to nourish myself, because that's also part of my word, is to nourish myself.
Right.
So, which rule am I supposed to break or not break? You know, you see what I'm saying? Like,
but now I'm going to ask you a question.
Does it make sense that this has nothing to do with my dietary obligations, but as it starts off by saying, don't do no work.
Yeah.
So
don't do no occupational work for money.
What this really boils down to is during this time period, they had something called welders and builders, who when they welded their equipment, when they built their tools, used a lot of fire and flame in these processes. Again, we're not thinking about that because now we're thinking about a welder or a builder. We're like, oh man, that's just a machine doing that. That's cool. That's today.
Yeah, but what about back then?
Back then, their occupational routines made them do something this way, this way, this way, and this way. So it's very difficult to accept the argument of I can't do something in today's society based on what was told back in the day, thank you, when people who have the same beliefs and faith as me are also creative people and have made adjustments so that we can still live, survive, and follow this rule while still maintaining this rule.
Hallelujah.
So it all harkens back to a basic level of understanding. Because if you can't basically tell me how a heater works, then you can't tell me that I can't use my heater. Because you know what I ain't never heard nobody say? We can't use hot water.
Because we took a hot shower before we came here, right?
Now, a hot water heater is what actually uses fire. So what you really saying to me? You know what I'm saying? But I understand how construction works because of my background. That's why I don't have these arguments with people, because if
we
you
don't
have
either.
that basic understanding of how any of your equipment work, how you tell me what I can and can't use, right? That's where I get lost, because
right. We understand you. What you're saying.
We're fighting outside of the basics. You see what I'm saying? Like instead of meeting on the level.
Yeah. Now, is it a sin?
Okay. When you ask people what is a sin, sin is transgression of the law. Of the law. Can we explicitly see in the law where it says kindling a fire absolutely means cooking? Because just because you got a fire going on, there's a reason you got a fire. It's about the reason and the intent of the fire. So can we explicitly say
Yeah.
when
So
you
is
when BA says is it a sin? I don't think you
Yeah.
know
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's saying
Yeah,
does
yeah.
it explicitly say thou shalt do or thou shalt not do
So we
anything
understand
with
it.
fire and cooking?
So
Can we see that?
So let me say this: is it a sin to light a fire to do work, doing the type of work to get paid for? Can we agree on that, in a sense, or can we get a definite?
I can agree on that based on knowing the absolute definition of the two types of work that are listed in this scripture.
Okay.
I have a different perspective than how I was taught about this, because we're talking about a priestly order.
Yeah.
First of all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know from Genesis, the fire was representative of God.
Correct.
Almighty God.
Correct.
So the job of the priest in the temple was to never let the fire go out. Right?
Did you read the document?
So his job is to never don't kill him with fire, because it represents the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So all this stuff, and that's the silliness my brother's talking about. Well, what's they got to do with me putting something in the microwave or getting some hot water? Well, you miss the spiritual meaning of the fire, because you just want to focus on work. You know?
And you don't even know the difference between work.
And then work, then it doesn't mean, it means I don't rest. But Yeshua clear that he said, I am the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the whole word of God is the rest, not Saturday.
Yeah.
So if I'm not resting on the word, I'm not resting at all, because I didn't let the fire go out.
Come on, brother Daryl.
So now the presence of God is not even in me.
Yeah, hold on. Did Christ say that?
Said, I wish the
fire was
already
kindled
when I
kindled.
came here.
So now some of us have been taught. We keep hearing these like you said, physical
I'll tell you what that
aspects
is.
of a fire and what a fire does, and then burn my finger, whatever. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
Because if the spiritual fire has gone out, you ain't resting.
You ain't resting.
Come on,
But ain't the Sabbath?
It's just you're just in darkness.
Now, is the Sabbath a delight? It's supposed to be a delight. You're supposed to enjoy when the Sabbath comes in. The Sabbath, to me, see, this is what it was for me when I first came into observing Sabbath years ago. In the beginning, it was a bunch of do's and don'ts.
Come on.
But
bring it
as
home.
I got to a point to where when I started spending more time with Judah and Zadok, the brothers in Buffalo, when I started to see for them, it wasn't a bunch of do's and don'ts.
Hallelujah.
Then all of a sudden, I would sit down and had a conversation with Judah about certain topics and how he would say the Sabbath is we're supposed to enjoy it.
Hallelujah.
And it was something that was said that I brought up too. Are you resting on the Sabbath when you're starving?
Are you resting when you're freezing to death? You
Yeah.
resting when you can't see?
Yeah. Are you resting when are you resting now that we clarified kindle a fire? Now let's talk about lighting something to cook. While you're on the Sabbath and you're cooking.
Come on.
Is that a delight? Because you're resting and you're cooking
and it's feeling good to
and it's
you
feeling
when
good.
It go down and you
exactly.
Come on now.
Like I said last week, my mother cooks on the Sabbath with my daughter when she wants breakfast. So again, am I dealing with a thug tyrant God?
Come on.
Or am I dealing with a God of justice
and love?
Okay,
and
now,
love.
Brother Daryl about something else. But now, so look, because like you said, if you're supposed to be running around with this spirit in you all the time, right? Maybe, and again, here we go, they get too literal. They talking about don't kindle the fire in your house. Maybe they're trying to tell you to get up and go fellowship with your brothers and sisters out here outside, outdoors. Kindle that fire in the temple or out, you know what I mean, with your people. I might put too many extras on it, but basically you might be saying don't keep this to yourself. But get out there and
share it with another.
Socialize.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Get out there and have that light out there. I don't know. I mean,
right, because we are the light.
Saying how their job was to keep the fire kindled.
Keep the fire kindled.
You know what I'm saying?
That's Leviticus 6.
You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes, like, if it's your job to be in this house all day, every day, indoors all day, every day, waiting for people to come to you to give them this, you know what I'm saying? And then the Sabbath come. He like, yo, don't keep that fire in the house. You know what I'm saying?
Get it out there.
Out there and go spread out to the people in the community now. You know what I'm saying?
That's what Christ was saying.
Let this be the day that you get out here and be like, this your day to go out here and put your
every day be
on
that.
and you know what I'm saying? Go out there and
come in that spirit all the time.
Right.
Hallelujah.
That's what Christ said. I wish this fire was already kindled.
Yes.
That's what
because if the fire's in you, we're talking about authority. You can go out like we tell our children, and you know my rule.
Come on.
You know what I taught you.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
So we say, I trust you.
Yep.
So I trust you to make the decisions that you need to make when I'm not with you because I want to. I'm a king. Like I said, in Paul was talking about we're prophet, priest, and king in our home.
Yeah.
So it's our job as men to keep the fire in our home.
That's zeal for the Most High.
Didn't I
If
talk
my
about that
family's
yesterday?
cold,
Yeah.
I'm heating them up. If my family's hungry, they're gonna eat.
Yeah.
And ain't nobody gonna tell me different. Sorry. Because
Yeah.
the Lord told me to be prophet, priest, and king in my home.
Yeah.
To love my wife, to raise my children, to teach them these things.
Shoot.
And I'm not exempt from that because it's a certain day of the week. I do that every day of the week.
Exactly.
Until they put me in the ground.
And
That's what I do.
And again, I keep thinking the basic necessities. If it was
necessities.
literally starting a flame, we couldn't come meet each other because we couldn't start our car.
Cars. Yep, that's another one too.
Not just that. We couldn't be able to turn on these light switches in here.
Well, thank God we don't have to rub
Right.
this.
No, right. Or somebody that thinks that work because you have some people who actually think
That's work.
Work. So that means we're sinning if we got somebody because people work here. So that means that we're sinning if we have somebody come in here, prepare this room for us, warm that water up, give us hot cocoa. Because the same individuals who say that will be quick to drink that cocoa and that coffee.
You right. I thought about that.
Yeah, like so. My thing is that, and if I misled anybody last week, I apologize. I really do.
You just follow the Spirit, brother.
Really seriously.
It's not your,
Yeah, and
the job of the Spirit.
Yeah, and
The fire is going out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Nothing we can do. The Lord after we give it to Him, and like I said, we pray for one another, and like pray for those, that the Lord put the fire back in them,
Yeah.
Right.
He said, I'm the one who puts the desire in your heart.
Mm.
So if you don't have it, it's between you and Him, But,
Yeah.
I want to read something real quick before we continue to answer Brother Darrell. You say, why do people do this, do that? Why do people, believe this way or not believe this way? I want to read something. Deuteronomy 30, verses 18 and 19. Deuteronomy 30, verses 18 and 19. I'm going to read out of the scriptures ISR. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 18 and 19. This is my one right here. When you hear me go to Deuteronomy 30 a lot, this is my one.
Yeah, I know you're going.
It says, I have declared to you today, this is the Most High speaking, I have declared to you today that you shall certainly perish. You shall not prolong your days in the land which you are passing over the Jordan to enter and possess. That's if your heart is turning away from following the commandments the Most High put out before you, right? Verse 19, he says, I have called the heavens and the earth as witnesses today against you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, you shall choose life so that you live, both you and your seed. Now, I could continue, but I want to make the point here. The Father says, I give you life or death, blessing or curse. As the Most High, He's telling you to choose life. But as a person, right, if you got a choice, and if you're not following the Most High, you can choose the opposite of life, which is death. So the thing is, Brother Darrell, people make their choices. They're choosing blessing or curse. They're choosing life or death. They're choosing. They're choosing either to get the basic stuff or they're not choosing to get the basic stuff.
So this is why
until the Holy Spirit convicts them otherwise.
So this
you
is why,
see?
So this is why that is confusing to people who aren't necessarily as trained up as everyone else, or are not as comfortable asking questions.
I think, and I'm not a Bible scholar or anything. I think people choose to make things want to fit their own needs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what I think.
That's why I was going with that. Like, for people who aren't necessarily as comfortable with standing up for what matters to them, they do what's comfortable for them.
That's their choice.
You know what I'm saying? But see, choice is a strong word because see, choice implies that you're doing something of your own willingness.
Because it was given to you. The Father said
sometimes you make decisions based on your own. Stupidity is not the right word. I don't want to use that word. Sometimes you do stuff of your own lack of understanding, and the reason why I say lack of understanding is even though you have someone telling you that sign says exit, you can leave out that door, you refuse to go out that door because it's closed.
That's a choice.
Because you've never been taught that you can open that door, or you've been taught to fear opening in that door because it's different than what everyone else around you is saying. So that goes back to what you said about bringing all these different groups of individuals trying to teach the same message together, so that way we can have like a larger council of people trying to help people understand. Because if I'm studying under you on YouTube all day, and your thought process is that handle's hot, even though that sign says exit, I'm never going to get out, because if I touch the handle, I'm gonna burn myself. You see what I'm saying? Like,
or you could choose to pick up an oven mitt and open the door.
A lot of people fall victim to thinking their information is not as knowledgeable as someone else's. They think just, even though that they've read and put the study in, and they have an idea and understanding that they just can't be the person to come up with the right answer. Like, it's just they have that fear and it grips them. So it's not always a choice of just, well, I'm going to do this because this is just what I think. Like, some people really naturally have a fear to go against what they view as the grain. You know what I mean? Like, if everybody in their initial circle is saying, hey, this is killing the fire means you can't cook, you can't do this, you can't do this, and that's all they hear, and then they get in a different group, and a different group means, well, maybe there's a little more into it, study it, they're going to be more apt to fight you on it because this is all they see in their other group over here in their regular life, their full time. So this is what they deem solid. But the number one thing that I try to remind people that come in this walk, they all came into this walk because they had questions about what was solid in the first place. So I will be patient before I just allow someone to stick in my mind what's concrete when it's open, left to be open like this.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's open. It's open. This is a personal walk. This is a personal relationship.
Well, because there's ignorance, and the word says, "I didn't leave you to be ignorant."
Come on.
So I have a remedy for your ignorance, which is my Holy Spirit, to guide you, teach you, to lead you in the truth.
Hallelujah, Brother Darrell.
So you can make better decisions.
Hallelujah.
You can know and be taught what I should do, what work I should be doing, the way I should go. But then it also says there's willful ignorance.
Come on.
Right.
And that's the ignorance you're gonna get you on.
We get into, I won't say sin because there's a remedy for sin, but that's where we get into the consequences of your decisions.
Come on.
Because you're willfully ignorant.
Come on, Brother Darrell.
I'm not gonna listen to nobody.
Come on, Brother Darrell.
I'm gonna do what I want to do anyway.
That's their choice.
And then you get what you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Ain't nobody gonna follow you.
Exactly.
You know, like you said in Proverbs, your wisdom is despised because you're a fool. And that's just the word. That ain't just me talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it talks about that.
Yeah.
It's in the word. And so yeah, we are ignorant because we may be a babe in some area. We're ignorant of politics. We're ignorant of love, relationships. We're ignorant of a lot of things. You know, but as long as we're seeking Him.
Hallelujah.
But if we're not seeking Him, we're going to remain ignorant.
Exactly. So now, and you saying that, now all of a sudden that goes back to just everybody in general. Are we truly seeking Him?
Hallelujah.
Are we truly praying for each other?
Hallelujah.
I mean, that's one way of seeking the Most High, when you pray for those who are around you.
Hallelujah.
When you, like I said, when you're busy picking and picking and picking and picking and picking.
And we're talking about people in the church, because that's what Paul was even talking about. They have a form of godliness.
Right.
But they're not learning nothing.
Right.
Because they're not listening to nobody.
Come on.
And they're going to stay right where they are. They're not growing.
Yeah.
That's a choice they making.
It's not blasphemy, but one of the worst things you can do is to not be thankful and not growing.
Come on, Brother Darrell.
And you in the kingdom.
Yeah, or you claim to be in the kingdom.
Right.
And then maybe one of these days we need to understand what kingdom is.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
Christ said before it manifests, it starts within. So, like I said, when brothers be saying, I'm in the kingdom, we trying to build this kingdom up. Do you actually know what that means? You got to build yourself up first.
Well, like me and you was talking, I said, the kingdom is still righteousness, peace, and joy.
Exactly.
In the Holy Spirit. And so if you say, well, I'm doing Shabbat or I'm tithing, I'm doing these things, and you don't have no peace.
Come on.
You ain't keeping it.
And you frustrated.
Come on.
You ain't keeping it. And then when you're so quick to accuse somebody, of something which you can't prove, and you have no grounds of proving it, you're not at peace with yourself. And when you're always coming against somebody, speculating, whatever it may be, there's something wrong with you.
Gotta do some introspection.
The danger is you're causing other people to stumble.
And hold on, and we always talk about we read the law and we know the law. Go to Leviticus 20.
Come on, BA. And to the audience, we're gonna take our time with this today. We have to address, matters that come up as they do, because that's love, right?
Yes, sis.
Leviticus.
Well, Leviticus what?
Leviticus 20. Let me go to King James. I can find it.
Defect chapter.
Whoa.
Leviticus 20.
Hallelujah, Sister Kirsten. Thank you, Brother Yochanan. Hallelujah.
Much love to you guys. Leviticus 20. Forgive me, brothers and sisters. I had to get to the King James and find it because this Greek Septuagint.
The numbering is
totally off for me at time. I'm still getting used to reading it.
All right.
And it reads, Leviticus 19. Pick it up at verse 14. Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shall fear thy God. I am the Lord. That's Leviticus. Now, we know people may look at this literally, but there's spiritual connotation. It's spiritual behind this. You lay a stumbling block when you fuss at people over kindling the fire.
And then who are the Levites? Those are the priests.
Yeah. And we are,
but hold on. We supposed to be following.
We all nation of
No.
priests, right?
Check this out. Because sis brought this up. Us men, we always claim we priests over our household. So we supposed to be priests over our household, and we tend to take that attitude and apply it to other people we're around, and we're creating stumbling blocks and having these nitpick issues because somebody believes that a chapter other than your opinion because you got some kind of opinion about yourself being a priest.
What kind of priest?
You tell me.
Brother Leon.
I'm just saying, it just to me
Opus Dei.
Yeah. I try to always tell people, think logically here. There's nothing wrong with thinking logically. There's nothing wrong with it. I'd rather be a human being of reasonable behavior than a religious zombie. I'm sorry. I will not do it. I will not. I can't pick at a person because I know how it was for me not too long ago.
Yeah, come on.
I know how it was for me. And I know I had that attitude to where I was like, you ain't keeping the Sabbath. You condemn. I know. Look how many people I turned away doing that. And it's going to be the Most High's mercy to have mercy on me on that. It's his decision if he's going to let me slide on that when the time comes. That's his decision.
A lot of people don't know how to comprehend what they read.
Oh, you can say that a million
Reading
and one
comprehension
more
skills.
I talk to VA about that all the time. Look.
Yeah.
Comprehend what they read, and it's so people are taking things and twisting it out of, or just saying what they think it is, and not really reading and trying to understand what it's saying.
Yeah.
I was going to add to that because a lot of times people don't comprehend, but the thing right after is that I don't know if it's pride or whatever you want to call it, but they don't want to recognize
that they're wrong.
that they really don't comprehend.
Exactly.
Maybe
They
they,
don't
do
wanna
recognize that they really don't comprehend.
They don't want you to tell them.
They don't want
everything,
you. They
but
don't
they
want
don't want
you
to say
know.
nothing
Yeah.
about
But that's
it. They want
pride.
to stick with that perception.
But don't the scriptures speak about pride?
Exactly, but what they need to do is just allow time, because I didn't like when we were talking about the Sabbath. I don't want to go back into that.
Yeah.
But it took a while for me to really understand, because at first I have to be honest, I didn't quite understand it, and I was just like, I need more time before I can commit and go out and order people to have this perception.
Exactly.
When I honestly really don't understand the context. I didn't know the culture back then. I didn't have the understanding of what they were doing. Why he said I didn't. I needed to develop or have a little bit more time and patience before I came to my conclusions.
At one time, we were just Sabbath keeping Christians.
Yeah.
If you ask the Lord for wisdom and understanding,
Hallelujah.
when you're trying to learn a word, that He will give you that.
Come on.
If you're just gonna read it and say, "Oh yeah, that's what it says," I'm just gonna you have to be open to let the
Hallelujah.
Lord come in and just tell you, and you have that's something I firmly believe.
Hallelujah.
Prayer is it takes prayer
Yes.
to be able to ask the Lord, just come, Lord,
Yes.
just explain, give me the knowledge to understand
Come
what
on.
you're trying to say. That's.
So what about the scripture
I
that
agree.
says, how can they know except they've been preached to?
Mhm.
Because a lot of people just been preached to.
Like,
So how they don't even know that they're ignorant.
Mm.
They've just been preached to, and it's like, and so that pastor, that person I put my faith in, that's the gospel truth.
Mm.
And so now here comes now doctrine and doctrines of men, because someone told me, and don't let it be grandmama and them. And
Come on.
All right. Family members.
All right.
Now we finna go to blows. My
Right.
grandma wouldn't lie to me.
Yeah, buddy. And I've been there.
and you know what? And you're absolutely right, because I come from that type of family.
Yeah, we do.
But I have
do.
and to be honest with you, I'm not of the same walk that you guys are on, but I listen to my son a lot, and I listen to Ashanti, and I have learned a whole lot. And if my
Hallelujah.
grandmother was here, I wouldn't tell her that she's gonna be willing to, But I had to. I was like, Lord, I really want to understand what my son is, what it is.
Hallelujah.
He's trying to get me to understand. So if you could just, Lord, please give me an open mind.
Yeah.
And I had to open my, and every now and then I'll pick up the Bible. I hear him, and then I'll pick up and I say, well, let me see what he's saying here now, But yeah.
Because the words say we have to be changed.
Yes.
And people hate change.
Oh.
Yes.
Ooh-wee.
Well,
Don't be changing me.
Yes.
But go to.
So I'm gonna be willfully ignorant now, because
This.
if I accept what you're telling me, I have to go back and change everything that I've been doing. And I ain't
Brother
doing it.
Daryl,
Because they don't want
going
it.
in right
They don't
now.
want it.
That word, King James, whatever, preach to, so what do it really mean?
Yeah. You talking about what the priests do?
No, he said, well, how you put that?
It said,
How would they hear it?
basically talking about bringing somebody in. How can they know except they've been
What
preached?
they're saying.
Oh, yeah.
What do it really mean in Hebrew? What do it really mean?
That's actually the passage from the Greek.
Yeah.
I can do some thorough study on that and get back to you.
Because preach is not exactly what it means, I don't think.
Well, this is okay from the Hebrew. I'll say the word from the Hebrew. I forget the exact Hebrew word. It's what is it? Basar, I think. Could you look that up for me, BA? But in the Strong's. But looking up the definition of the word preach, it actually means to proclaim the good news of the gospel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like
It just means to make an announcement of the good news.
It's really more like a evangelical term. That's why we used to do revivals, right? I'm reviving you. I'm evangelizing you, and I'm making the environment conducive for the Holy Spirit, and you're gonna feel something.
Yeah.
And it's gonna cause you to act different than you've been acting. That's what's wrong with you. The way you've been acting. So we're gonna change the way you've been acting.
Just put.
But it's still supposed to be
the Hebrew word for preach.
the preacher that's preaching, and Paul, we all preach.
2784.
We
That's
might
the
be in
Greek.
Walmart, because we all preachers. So now
Correlate.
the whole issue
Hebrew
is:
Strong's,
are you led by the
collectors.
Spirit?
Right.
Is the words coming out of your mouth
Mm-hmm.
A preacher,
coming
a
from the
son.
Spirit?
That's
Or
not
they
I said
coming
preacher.
from
Go to 69.
your opinion of something?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then Paul, remember you said,
6953.
why are you
Collector
reasoning
of
together?
sentences, a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Brown drivers.
of different
Collector,
opinions.
preacher,
And neither one of you
feminine, office.
talking about me.
Arabic
Neither
attention
one of you
force,
are using my words.
Right.
You're just out of your
We
pain
probably heard it
and
said,
your
hold on,
grief.
the
You
Strong's
reason
feminine or active
based on your
principle,
grief.
Of course.
preaching,
Well, yeah, the whole
see
thing. Like I
Hebrew
said,
qual. See that
how
one?
people get their
Look it up in the
information.
Greek. Look it up in the Greek.
Okay.
Some
We'll
out of
get to
books. People you go to college and you got all this book knowledge and you ain't never worked on the job yet.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't in the field.
You ain't
You
had
just
no
got book
on-the-job
knowledge,
training.
and so now the whole test is how you act in the field. Well, I thought I wanted to do this, and now this is not what I want to do.
Okay,
Right.
It's 2784.
And, well, we didn't spend the money, so guess what you're
Right.
gonna be doing, right?
To proclaim.
So read that in the Greek.
In the Greek,
In the Greek, the word preach.
it says properly to herald, proclaim.
I'll say the word because I can say it. It's
It's a verb too.
kerusso.
Kerusso.
Sorry.
And it means I proclaim, herald, preach. I proclaim, herald, preach. And also it says, refers to preaching the gospel as authoritative. Word of God bringing eternal accountability. Preaching is by a herald sent from God. Declaring to gospelize stresses the victory of God's gospel.
Right.
Message and totality of his good news.
So it is to proclaim, to make an announcement of the gospel of the good news.
So
The
anybody
word.
can do it.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
So you guys remember what Hebrew 4 says about that?
Well, Hebrews 4.
Hebrews 4. You
Go ahead,
read it?
Go
It
ahead.
says, therefore let us, I'm reading out of the
Yes, that's fine.
CJB.
Yeah, we
It says,
understand.
therefore let us be terrified of the possibility that even though the promise of entering the rest remains, any one of you might be judged to have fallen short of it. For good news has also been proclaimed to us.
Come on.
To us. You know what I'm saying? Just as it was to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the message they heard didn't do them any good. Because those who heard it did not combine it with trust.
With that
So you
faith.
didn't preach to
Come on.
But you didn't trust it when he was even preaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust us.
And the gospel was
Hallelujah.
and the gospel was preached in the wilderness.
So it says,
Come on.
it is us who have trusted
Yes.
who enter into rest.
Yeah.
Right.
Not because you've been preached to.
Come
Or
on.
you out there preaching.
Yeah.
And you ain't never trusted the word. So
Come on.
He told us that to Jethro. He said, Jethro trusted.
That's right.
Yeah, man,
Abraham. That's
yeah.
why Abraham is called the father of the faith, because he trusted the father. When the father said, leave your relatives, leave your land, leave your country, leave your father's house to a place I will show you. That's faith. That's trust.
Remember he was telling us, let's move on to perfection.
Come on.
Not
Yeah.
this stuff.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
getting excited.
Not how to heat my food. Or what it's like, let's move on to
Like-
that stuff, man. That's elementary stuff. Let's move on to the rest that we're supposed to be seeking.
Yeah, exactly.
And we haven't, maybe we're not even seeking that level of rest.
And then, you know what kills me? I was talking to one of my brothers a few days ago, and he said something that stood out to me. We supposed to call ourselves Israel. But we tend to notice, and then we always talk about who the people are and who aren't, and who they should be, who should not be. But us who got this understanding that we the people, and we take the traditions of those who we call our enemies and apply them to our God.
Oh, we.
And this is a person who calls himself, who believes and understands that our people are the people. He understands it. He said he notices that because he spends a lot of time around Israelites himself, and he will be considered a stranger based on that. You know what I'm saying? He said to me a few days ago. He said it's funny how a lot of brothers call themselves Israel. He believes it, but he was like, they're adopting the traditions of those who they always talk bad about all the time.
Yeah.
They badmouth all the time.
Yeah.
And this is somebody who they will call Esau. They will call him Esau. But he brought that up. You know what I'm saying? And he was just saying how it's just funny. He said, but this is he said himself, not in these words, but he was saying more so that our people, we keep proving we Israel. We keep proving by our ignorance, how we act. Because the people, we keep proving it. Because Israel didn't get it. And then the way we act as a whole, whether we know we Israel or not, we keep proving we the people of the book. When we always see, because we always say, well, we the people of the book. We the one that Moses spoke to. Yeah, we sure are. Hard-headed and will not listen for nothing. Stiff-necked is, man, I'm my own leader. I don't want to be under this person. I don't want to be under that person. I want to be my own person through whoever. No, like this is crazy. We keep proving that we the people of the book. That, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I keep saying, I love Israel. I love Israel with all my heart, but man, I don't like Israel. I would do whatever I can to help. I would do whatever I can to get as many of us on board, but we can't save everybody.
Yeshua couldn't do that.
Come on, you can say that.
He was the Messiah. Man.
That's his word.
Come on.
Yeah. So let's go into Exodus 19. I know we kind of,
No,
but
we
it's good though. We had to do it. We had
these
to.
things
We
when
had
they
to.
come up.
We had to. Exodus 19. This is when they're about to make the covenant.
And while you bringing this out, I'll make a couple of points.
Okay.
If
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I'm gonna read it. Right in Exodus. Yep. Let me see. Excuse me.
no, it's that Septuagint. You gotta go back.
I got it. Okay, 18. All right, 19. Okay, I'm good. Okay, Exodus 19, verse 1. And in the third month of the departure of the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came into the wilderness in Sinai. And they departed Sinai. And they departed from Rephidim and came into the wilderness of Sinai.
Mount Sinai or something.
Okay, Sinai. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And there Israel encamped before the mountains, and Moses went up to the mount of God, and God called him out of the mountain, saying, These things shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and thou shalt report them to the children of Israel. Ye have seen all that I have done to the Egyptians, and brought you up as upon eagle's wings, and I brought you near to myself. And now if ye will indeed hear my voice, and keep my covenant, ye shall be my peculiar people above all nations, for the whole earth is mine. Ye shall be a royal priesthood and a holy or set apart nation. These words shall thou speak to the children of Israel. And Moses came and called the elders of the people, and he set before them all these words which God appointed them. That's verse 8. And all the people answered with one accord, and said, All these that God has spoken, we will do and hearken to. And Moses reported these words to God. Now y'all know what Israel just did.
This was the marriage covenant.
They agreed. Now this is a mixed multitude. It just ain't Jacob's literal family that grew into numbers.
Come on.
These are the Egyptians. I mean, these could have been the mixed multitude of Egyptians. Could have been some Assyrians. Could have been some Sumerians. It could have been various nations. We all know there were Canaanites. Various Canaanites that were so. But the Most High said He called them all Israel. All of them. So this doctrine about the white man is this and all this and the nations is this and the nations is heathens and they're beneath us. No.
Well, can I stress this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Israel is a name, but it's a word that means something. It's a conglomerate of like 3 Hebrew words in one. Sorry, I deal with this a lot, but a lot of people don't understand anybody could be Israel because of what it means.
It's an action.
So Yod, Sarah, and El make up the word Yisrael. Yod means the hand, but in the grammar it means he, right? Or who, right? Sarah, the word Sarah means to contend or to strive. El is the mighty power or deity, shortened version of Elohim. So Yisrael means he who strives or contends, rules and prevails with Elohim. So that's an action.
It's an action.
So when we call ourselves Israel, that's what we're saying we do.
Yeah. And was Jacob chosen? Was Jacob called Israel because of his skin complexion? No. This is what we get. These are These are people who come up and teach and say, "The Lord revealed it to me." Are you serious? Yes, Elder.
You have to realize, even with Abraham, when Abraham was coming along, anybody who wanted to serve his God, don't care who it was,
That's right.
became part of Israel.
Exactly.
Anybody, a heathen, don't care who.
Don't matter. You became Israel.
All Philistine, anybody who said they're going to serve his God became Israel.
Yeah.
And that's all the way through the Bible.
Yeah, from Genesis to Revelation.
Genesis to Revelation.
In the Apocrypha.
Yeah, so it's white, black, green,
Purple, turquoise, gray,
Yeah.
don't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Also in verse 6,
Yeah.
if you understand what is the text saying in the Septuagint in verse 6, Exodus 19?
And it says, "And ye shall be to me a royal priesthood."
A royal priesthood. Now, royal priesthood, keep that in mind. And in the ISR scriptures, ISR says a kingdom of priests. That means we're supposed to go out and teach the nations and bring them into this covenant.
Like it says in Isaiah, Israel, a light to the Gentiles.
That's a...
Walking in darkness.
Still walking in darkness.
Right.
Because we don't want to get over ourselves. We don't want to.
And if we're talking about these nations are messed up, if we talk about they don't have good morals, if we're talking about they so wicked and devilish, then why wouldn't we want them to come into this covenant that can get them to be the opposite of wicked, right?
You know, an elder was said to me a long time ago. He said, it's funny. He said, because if the teachers are on point, everybody else will be on point. So that just tells you when the teachers are off, everybody else is gonna be off.
Right.
So whose fault is it that everybody is off? Uh-oh.
Right.
I just want to throw that out there. That's all. But let's see. Did I have someone to touch on real quick? Yes, go to 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 2. Did I pass it up? Yeah, okay.
1 Peter 2.
And we're going to pick it up at verse... Let's go to verse... What was I wanting? 1 Peter chapter 2 and 9. And it reads...
Come on, VA. I do you.
Yep.
Royal priest.
But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Like the elder just said, we walking in darkness. But the thing is that, too, is that a lot of Christians go here and try to make it seem like this is for them. No. This is for Israel that consists of many nations.
And we can see that from chapter 1, 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1. It says, Peter, or Kepha, an emissary or an apostle of Yeshua, Messiah, to the chosen strangers of the dispersion in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia.
And some people say these are just Israelites, just blood descended Israelites. No. You see what doctrine to do? What doctrine would do?
The argument between chosen and elected.
Yeah. Like you see what you see.
Chosen or elected.
Yeah. You see what religious doctrine would do to you?
They be going for some crazy stuff.
You know what I'm saying? It just, you don't get anywhere. There's no growth. I said it last week. Religious doctrine is what kills us. It's what turns other people away. I keep telling people, the more we keep going back and forth over these petty differences, the Most High gonna have a big beef with us. A big beef. Because you did more arguing than saving. We're doing more damage than good. I'm not going to talk to you because you believe this. I'm not going to talk to you because you're not wearing your fringes right. Well, how are we going to save people's lives when we're arguing over petty stuff? How are we going to be effective? How are we going to come in his name and say he talks to me, he uses me to show you something?
Come on.
No. That's Baal. It's not the Most High.
Read that sentence right before verse 9.
Verse 9.
We'll read 8.
8.
8 again.
Okay.
Exodus 19, verse 8.
Exodus 19, verse 8.
I mean,
Peter?
Peter 2.
Okay. Verse 8. And it reads, let me get to it. Yes. And a stone that makes them stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the word as they were destined to do.
That's what we already been talking about.
Yeah. Going back and forth. So guess what? You create a stumbling block, and it's written in the commandments in Leviticus. We just read that not too long ago. You shall not curse the blind, and curse the deaf, and you should not lay a stumbling block in front of the blind.
That's right.
I mean, that's clear as day. We'll argue over the petty stuff, but when it comes to a stumbling block and cursing the blind, we don't want to address that. Oh no, it don't mean that.
Like I said, the problem is, like they're saying, they don't trust the word.
Come on.
They never come to the place where they trust the word.
Trust the Messiah.
And that's what Al said. He says trust. He said trust is key.
Trust is key.
Gotta have faith.
Come on.
Yeah, that's what it is. And one thing about Al, since I talked to him a lot, he don't like to use the word faith. He like to use trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Especially
It's
when
impossible.
he's showing you, he said, the Most High said, you have seen.
You have
what I
seen.
did.
So you should already know I got you. It goes back to Exodus 13. It goes back to
Right.
Exodus 13. When they could have went to the short route or the long route. Now, if Israel would have just had faith or trusted their God, he would have had no problem taking them the shortcut. He would have had no problem. But guess what? He said, "No, I ain't gonna take it to the shortcut because you don't believe me. I'm gonna take it through the long route because I have to prove to you again because they didn't want to leave Egypt.
Come on.
They didn't want to.
No, because they had a place where even though
It was
they're
convenient.
kings, it's hard on them and they're being abused, they still have a place where they have they
Comfort.
Have places, sleep, eat,
Yeah.
But now you got to take them out of their comfort zone. What do you say? Change.
Fish out of water?
Change.
Yeah, they said you got pot of meat.
Yeah,
right.
Man. Potted meat?
Yeah. Leaks.
Yeah. It sound like Israel today.
We call it spread.
Yeah. That's Israel today. Oh, I got my can of this and my that. I'm good.
I'm sorry, y'all. Ooh, this is real life right here. This is good.
And
this is good.
And we got to remember. I think it's in Numbers where the Most High told Moses to tell Israel, "Will you make a covenant to me? Will you decide to?" Will you dedicate a vow to me, or you tell me you give me your word? You better keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
them vows. Yeah, them
Yeah.
vows in Numbers 30.
Yeah.
Saying a vow. Yeah.
Exactly.
Straight up.
And notice when they messed these, they say they made the covenant right here.
Mm-hmm.
So notice when they messed up, what happened after they messed up? What was that what was the message the generation got that first generation got after they messed up?
They all died in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Exactly. So prior to making the covenant, the Most High gave them grace. See, that's the problem with a lot of Christians. They believe grace ain't
It
nowhere
came
in
the
here.
New Testament, yeah.
It's only Jesus gave grace. No,
Yeah, nah.
we can show you grace from Exodus chapter 10
And Exodus 32.
up to throughout the whole. They had an opportunity where they could have took the land.
Man.
And they didn't do
The
it.
word specifically said Abraham found grace. Noah found grace.
They found grace.
Grace was it's just something you had to find.
Yeah, you had to. Yeah,
And
but
you can only find it if you seek it.
Come
you
on.
seek it.
Adam
So
found grace.
yeah, because it said Adam died, the son of God.
Yeah, so he died. He just let him live he didn't let him live a whole day, but he let him live.
You let him live. That's grace.
Right.
That's grace.
Right. Come on,
So
Brother Leon.
the thing is that
grace.
we have to, like I said before earlier, we always use the law to cut and to cut. So that's why people don't want to observe these laws because we're using the cut. No, there's grace in the law. There's grace in it. The grace and law are not opposites. They're the same. They go hand in hand.
grace is equal to the sword. So the grace is also what's doing the cutting.
It's man.
Well, to add to that, like surgery. When somebody needs some surgery, there's something wrong with you in the first place, so you got to get cut. But after you get cut, you get healed up. So right. So sometimes you do.
Because it said it's for the separating of the what spirit was flesh. So
right.
Grace is cutting you.
Yeah.
And then people say, well, grace is just merited favor. Well, you don't understand grace.
Exactly.
And you've never understood grace.
Anything else you want to cover in this one before we move on? Or?
Yeah, let's cover, if you could, verses 10
Verse 10
to 16. I want to bring some things out, just some clarification here.
Exodus 19, verse 10, and it reads, And the Lord said to Moses, Go down and solemnly charge the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their garments, and let them be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will descend upon the Mount Saint Sinai before all the people.
Pause real quick. Okay, Exodus 19, verse 1. Right here it says, in the third new moon, in the third month. I'm going to make a connection. And this is going to help us with the New Testament in Acts number 2. The children of Israel are traveling out from Egypt to Mount Sinai. And it's shown here, not verbatim, but when you're working with some numbers, you do some math, some counting, right? We're going to show that the children of Israel were given the Torah 50 days, on the 50th day after they came out of Egypt. The 50th day after they came out of Egypt is what we call Pentecost, or in the Hebrew, Shavuot.
Exactly.
I'll show you a little bit of how you count, but I'm just going to give you a little bit, okay? So in the third month, verse 1 of Exodus 19, it says, in the third month after the children had come out of the land of Mizraim.
And they kept the Passover in Mizraim.
Right? They kept the Passover in Mizraim. So the day of the month when they came to Mount Sinai, it's pretty much like the first day of the third month. Okay? So they came out of the month of Nisan. Now these are the Babylonian names. They came out of the month of Nisan. So now this is the month of Sivan. All right? And you can go back over this in the recording. What B.A. just read, Exodus 19 verses 10 and 11, he's saying, prepare yourself the third day. Moses says, set the people apart today and tomorrow. Okay? Set the people today apart today and tomorrow. This was pretty much the third day of the month. So this is 47, day 47. Okay? Keep reading verses 12 through 16. Yeah.
12 and 16. And thou shalt separate the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves, that ye not go up into the mountains, nor touch any part of it. Everyone that touches the mountain shall surely die. A hand shall not touch it, for everyone that touches it shall be stoned with stones, or shot with a dart, whether beast or whether man. It shall not live. When the voices and trumpets and cloud depart from the mountain, it shall come up on the mountain.
So, your book says, don't touch the mountain. And anybody who touches the person touch the mountain should be shot with stones and arrows. And my book says, anyone touch the mountain should be put to death. But no one should touch them, or no one should touch them to put to death, but to shoot them with stones and arrows. So, is that the same thing, or is it kind of...
Okay, so I'll read it from here. Good point, Torch. You read from that Septuagint, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. It says, not a hand is to touch it, but he shall certainly be stoned. So the person who touches the mountain should be stoned or shot with an arrow.
Right, yeah. Because whoever touched it, they were not. No one else was supposed to touch them.
Exactly.
But they had to put them to death, so they had to do it.
Yeah.
My Bible makes clear, if someone does touch it, it's saying, and don't nobody touch him now.
Right.
And no animal, anything that touches him now.
Right.
Because you're dead.
Die too.
Because the thing about when somebody dies, that dead person is unclean now. So if you touch that unclean person, you then become unclean. And the people of Israel have to remain pure and sanctified before the presence of the Most High to receive the commandments.
Yeah.
Again, this is the priesthood, because
Yes.
he said, "I made you a kingdom of priests."
Yes.
You gotta be set apart.
Priests are not to touch an unclean thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you touch it, you're gonna die.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who did the shooting?
No, I think that's what they're saying. Like anybody in the crowd, basically, or
Yeah.
whoever was responsible for doing
Was
the
doing that,
execution,
yeah.
but they couldn't physically go up and touch them to
The elders?
execute them. They had to
Probably the 70
Probably the elders.
So that's
Or the elders probably had a group of men,
Right.
of individuals who may have done it. Could have, yeah.
Actually,
So the
that's
stoning
all
to
of
death,
that's
or
all
the
of
shooter
us.
with an arrow.
That's actually all of us, right? Because he's talking about the stoning.
Yeah.
So we're
All
all
of us.
we all
Yeah.
participate in the stoning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing too with that, because a lot of people say that's harsh. Well, if you just do what you're told, you ain't got to worry about getting stoned.
Right.
just listen to instructions.
Right.
Man.
Right. And thank you all for your patience, but just making some good points. Just make sure we understand things clear and concise, and understand that these things are not do's and don'ts. There's reasons the Father gave us these instructions, and there's always a flow.
I always make a point because, like I said, we don't pay attention to the days. We're just reading it.
Yeah.
This third day, nobody says anything about that.
Yeah.
So now we know the third day and the preparation has to do with the reresurrection.
Yes.
There you
Come
go.
on.
Shavuot. And so,
'Cause that's where we were going.
Yeah.
And my Bible says, and King James says it too. You can read it. It says, prepare for the third day. Don't approach a woman.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because when you
Right.
when you're engaging
Right.
in the physical intercourse, you become unclean.
Right.
Yep.
And we're dealing with a preparation for the resurrection.
Oh,
And
right.
Here there's a transition coming, a change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so which is new life.
Yes.
Yep.
So we don't bring into a new life something unclean.
Come on.
Exactly. That's
Right.
what. And the same thing with Christ resurrected. What did he tell Miriam?
Don't touch
Touch
me.
me.
I have not yet ascended.
I'm not yet. Don't touch me. There's a reason. There's a reason for that.
Right.
I have to
Exactly.
throw a rock at you.
Yeah. One of the angels. Hey, and seriously, you
Right.
don't think one of the angels was probably just waiting?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't think man.
Right.
In this case, did you think the angels the ones that throwing the rock? Or the arrow?
No, he was talking about
I'm
when
just
he
doing
was
with Christ.
he was talking about when
I'm
the
talking
Messiah
about
came. Could have been.
Could have been. Who knows?
That's what my idea of it.
there,
Father's gonna be one throwing the rock.
there is an angel, a messenger of death.
Yeah.
No, the Father gonna tell you to throw the rock
Yep,
because you've now been made his priest.
that's right.
No.
And the priests are supposed to be just. They're supposed to be
Yep.
righteous and just.
Yes, yep, measure for measure.
And they have that right to throw stones or that arrow.
To meditate on that
Well,
one.
no, like I said, this is like simple logic because we know even when he told the disciples when they, he was without sin, let them cast the first stone.
stone, yep.
And you the one throwing the stone.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe this kid. I don't believe it. I have to meditate on that.
It's all good. Yeah,
It's all good. All good, elders. All
Hallelujah.
good.
If this provokes you to go back, study, meditate, and pray,
And
it's
guess what,
supposed to do.
elder?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna come at you in
That's
any
right.
old kind of way and make you feel bad for whatever you come
That's
up
right.
with, because your information may help me out with something else.
Right. If you find something, let me know.
because I don't know. It could have been an angel, could have been a
Right.
set apart group of guys that the elders chose.
Shoot, I'm
But
not-
we're not gonna sit back and beef over it and
Right.
huff and puff and shout over it. We're not gonna do that. We're brothers. Come on, and you're my you're an elder. I would never do that to you.
Hey, you sure? Because I got time today.
And Daryl's an older brother of mine. He's my older brother.
He talking about that video.
We ain't gonna mention none of them stones you didn't throw.
Oh man!
Oh,
See, this is the joy of the Sabbath.
The Sabbath.
Right here, right
We're
here.
having fun. We're having fun.
Having fun learning.
And we're learning.
And we're learning.
Oh boy!
The Sabbath is a delight.
delight.
That's what it's supposed to be. How is it supposed to be a day of rest when you're huffing and puffing? Like, come on, are you serious? Like Brother Daryl says, if you're not at peace, you can forget it.
Right. That's why we say Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah.
We're saying Sabbath.
Rest,
Peace.
yeah, Sabbath, yeah. Rest Sabbath, rest peacefully.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
So
verse 14.
Verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified them, and they washed their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to the people, be ready, for 3 days come not near to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass on the third day, as the morning drew nigh, there were voices and lightnings in a dark cloud on the Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
The voice of the trumpet sounded loud. All the people in the camp trembled. And Moses led the people forth. I'm sorry.
Go to verse 20. Do you have a question? Yes.
Okay. So, am I to take this as saying that premarital sex was not a real thing back in the day? Because from this right here, it ain't saying don't touch your wife. It's just saying, hey, don't have no sexual intercourse for 3 days.
Yeah.
Right.
So, am I to understand that as them saying that there was promiscuous? I can't say the word, but
Promiscuity.
you're right. Thank you. And they were just to abstain for that time period, or are they referring to a husband-wife relationship? Because that's real general.
They're talking about husband-wife relationship. So if you were married at this time, you were not to come and have sexual intercourse, because sexual intercourse, the fluids, you're unclean.
I got that, but I didn't. In my book, it
Just
says,
for the time frame, so they can receive the commandments.
The reason I asked that is because in my book it just says, then Moses said to people, be ready 2 days from now. Don't disqualify yourself by having sexual intercourse. On the morning of the second day, there was thunder and lightning. Like, it just literally glosses over.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I'm curious. Like, is that were they specifying between man and wife, or are they saying like
just don't do it? Period.
Between man and wife, yes.
Okay.
So this just once, so we said the third day of the third month. So this is just for this particular 2-day preparation period.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to make sure you stay pure and holy.
Just like they teach like fasting.
Yeah.
You abstaining from everything.
Yeah.
During that particular fast, and then
exactly.
And then it says when you finish fasting,
right?
Like, hurry up.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. We covered that. And I covered that in the video. Yeah. That's 1 Corinthians 7. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Good point. Good point. Okay, verse 20, BA, Exodus 19, verse 20.
Verse 20, and it reads, where's 20? Okay, and the Lord came down upon the Mount Sinai on top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. And the Lord called Moses on the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Mm-hmm. And God spoke to Moses, saying, go down and solemnly charge the people, or command them, lest at any time they draw nigh to God and to gaze, and a multitude of them fall. And let the priests that draw nigh to the Lord sanctify themselves, lest he destroy some of them. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And Moses said to God, the people will not be able to approach to the Mount of Sinai, for thou hast solemnly charged us, saying, set bounds to the mountain and sanctify it. And the Lord said to him, go descend and come up, thou and Aaron with thee, but let not the priests and the people force their way to come up to God, lest the Lord destroy some of them. And Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. Okay,
so in between day 47 and day 50, Moses is going up and coming down. Okay, so you can think a little bit so that Moses can see to go up. It's probably daylight when he ascends. Probably daylight when he descends, just so he can see he's going up this mountain here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know any of us, we ain't trying to go up no mountain when we can't see.
Does the 3 days have any chance of the resurrection at all? Or anything like that? Or
3 days of preparation?
Well, I'm just saying, is the number 3 holding it coming? I noticed it's 3 days to do this, 3 days to do that, and the resurrection was 3 days. Like the number 3 holding kind of significance.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I think when you stepped out, we covered it.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, and I was saying when the children of Israel were told to make sure they sanctify themselves, prepare themselves, don't come near a wife. It was the 47th day after they came out of Egypt. All right. So Exodus 20, right? And maybe I can cover this the next time, but I'll give the verses where you can actually start making a countdown of the days. You know, like when it says Israel camped here and Israel camped here, you can see sometimes where it says, okay, well, this was the 30th day of the second month. And then you start to do some math and some counting. All right. So Exodus 20, verse 1, you know, we know it starts the commandments. So the starting of the commandments, and I do want to bring this point out, the starting of the commandments is day 50. This is the 50th day. Because if the children of Israel were told on the 47th day to prepare yourselves and keep yourselves clean for the next 3 days, well, then after that, 47 plus 3 is 50.
And now they're getting ready to get the utterances,
right,
or the words, or we commonly call the 10 Commandments.
So that's the tie-in to Acts chapter 2. So Acts chapter 2, in the Greek, it would be penta, because penta means 5, right? So it's like you count 7 Sabbaths or 7 weeks, right? Seven weeks of Sabbath. So that's 7 times 7, that's 49. And then the day after, 49 plus 1 is 50. So they received the commandments on the 50th day. That's why we celebrate the feast of Shavuot or Pentecost. So that's Acts chapter 2. I want to bring up a point. We're going to go to the book of Joshua. Now, I know people say the book of Joshua, you know, it's not credible, but as long as the parts of the book of Joshua actually line up with the Torah,
we can use it.
Right?
We'll use it.
Right.
Most definitely.
The Torah is always the foundation.
Yes.
Right? And Joshua is the historical aspect that builds. Now, there are some things that I have found in Joshua, you know, just a couple of things that are off, but that's minute. But for the most part, what I see that line up, I keep it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever's not relevant, toss it. Now, I'm going to have BA read out of the book of Joshua, chapter 9, verses 21 to 27. I'm going to make this point about Exodus 20, the giving commandments, and Acts chapter 2. So this is 9, 21 to 37.
Okay.
21 to 37.
The book of Jasher, chapter 9, verse 21. Okay. And all the prince of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, put Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan, and with their families, and they said to each other, come, let us build ourselves a city, in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and he will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole earth, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men, and they went to seek the extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower, and they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar.
Now, this is the building of the Tower of Babylon. All right?
Babylon,
this is Genesis 11. All right?
Exactly.
Go ahead.
About 2 days, Shinar is the capital of Babylon. So about 2 days walk, and they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it. And while they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven.
Slow down. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You good?
And all these people and all the families divided themselves in 3 parts. And the first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. The second said, we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. And the third part said, we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And God knew all their works and their evil thoughts, and he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city in a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, or mortar and bricks did not reach the builders, and their ascent to it, until those who went up had completed a full year, and after that they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar of the bricks. Thus was it done daily. And behold, these ascended and other descendants the whole day, and if a brick should fall from their hands and got broken, they will all weep over it, and if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. And the Lord knew their thoughts, and it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows toward the heaven, and all the arrows fell upon them with blood. When they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from the Lord in order to... No, that's 29. I'm sorry. That's 29. I'm sorry. That's 29.
37.
Oh, keep going 37? Okay. For this was from the Lord in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them.
Read that verse again.
Verse
Slow.
32.
Slow, real slow.
And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man should not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did.
Get the yarn out for
Yep.
I want to be clear. I want this to be clear.
And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man's his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builders took from the hands of his neighbors lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did not, and they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, we will ascend to heaven and serve our gods, became like apes and elephants. And those who said, we will smite the heaven with arrows, the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, we will ascend to heaven and fight against him, the Lord scattered them through the earth. And those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the earth, whole earth rather.
Is that in the verse 37?
37. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called the place Babel, for the Lord confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And as the tower which... Oh, that's 37.
Okay. I want to...
So that's where the phrase Babylon came from.
Yep.
Babylon came from what?
Babel.
Babel.
Confusion of language.
Confusion of the language. So the tongue is confusion of the language. How many tongues or languages got created?
70.
How many?
70.
70. So at the time of the giving of the commandments, how many languages do you think were in the earth? Huh? 70.
70 languages.
So
Wow.
if the Father wanted to make sure that his commandments were being understood by the whole earth, my question to you all is, do you
70
think he
elders.
spoke in 70 different languages?
All at once? I agree. 70
Alright.
elders?
So
70 angels?
each person who spoke a different language, each of these 70 languages, right, were being spoken. And everyone understood. So in Acts chapter 2, let's read it.
First one.
Yeah, let me get there. Acts chapter 2, starting at verse 1.
When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like a rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting, the disciples.
Pause. Now, in Exodus 19, it says there was loud shofar and thunder, right?
Yes, it was.
There was this loud voice, right? The sound came from the heaven, right? Feast of Pentecost. Penta means 50. 50 days after they came out of Egypt, right? So this is commemorating the day they came out of Egypt. Keep reading, B.A., please.
Verse 3. Divided tongues as of fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages, as the Spirit gave them ability. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven living in Jerusalem. And at this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered, because each one heard them speaking in the native language of each. Amazed and astonished, they asked, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear each of us in our own native language?" It's a question.
In which we were.
Yep.
In which we were born.
Verse 9. It says
Right?
different right here.
Okay, so in my version it says, "How do we each understand our own language in which we were born?" Keep going to verses 11.
Skip to 11.
No, keep going, reading through verses 11.
Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, and Pamphylia, Egypt, and parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and the visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretians and Arabs, in our own language, we hear them speaking about God's deeds of power.
All right, so I made the connection between Acts chapter 2. It's the commemoration of the giving of the Torah. And the giving of the Torah, at Pentecost, we can see all these people from different nations. You're able to understand everybody, talking in your own native language or tongue. So, if you're understanding a tongue, that means you're originally, speaking that's your primary language that you grew up with. And when you're understanding something, that means, maybe somebody, when I speak Hebrew, then to English, if somebody understands something in English, well, I have to translate it. A translation is done by what? An interpreter. So a translation is given to you by an interpreter. So when I'm going from the Hebrew to the English, I have to interpret and translate what I'm saying. If I'm trying to tell this person to go down the street to the store, it's in Hebrew, it's probably going to sound like shabba dabba shabba shabba shabba. But they're getting the same concept to go to the same thing. I want the same action done. Go down the street to the store. So I'm making a connection between Exodus 20, the giving of the commandments. So the commandments were given in at least the 70 languages, because over in Genesis 11 or over in Joshua chapter 9, we see that the Father confounded the languages. He created them.
There were 70 angels.
Right. 70 angels who did the creating of the languages.
And we have 70 elders.
70 elders, right?
I have a heathen question.
What you say?
I said I have a heathen question.
Bro, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
They went around the world preaching Jesus only.
Come on.
Just leave it at that.
No, I agree with you. If you tell somebody, you can't say the name of the Messiah as Jesus. There's, the Muslims say Isa. I know what you're talking about. I know the person, the reputation, and the character you're talking about.
It's preached all the way around the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people.
Right. And I can reach somebody if they know Jesus. If they know Jesus. If I go to somebody and say, first off, if I say Yeshua, they probably not going to know who I'm talking about. But to get them into the conversation, right, I got to say Jesus, because that's the language that they understood to talk to them. That's who the Messiah is. Like, they say Jesus.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is all the 7 churches was in Asia.
Asia Minor, modern day Turkey.
Wow.
Anatolia
That's
is
some
what
hidden
they call it,
mystery.
right?
So,
But there were also some studies on this that did he speak an audible word, because it says they heard.
Mm-hmm.
So the word says he who had an ear to hear, let him hear.
Come on.
So did he speak an audible word, or did he speak a spiritual word and they understood?
Could be.
I mean, it's not proven, but it's like, we hear the spirit.
Right.
Is it audible, or did we hear with our spiritual?
Exactly.
Come on.
See, now the thing
Come
is
on.
that you see
That's a
how
good point.
that's the point. Now you see how we're
Yes,
able
lovely.
to put the different aspects together and have an understanding to where we're not beefing.
Yeah, because this is similar to what we call the Shekinah, right?
Yeah,
Here
where the
comes
spirit is
Shekinah,
resting.
and it says no one had to speak, no one had to preach, no one could. So they all, because they were under the Shekinah, so now we hear, with our spiritual ear now, and even at the sounding of the shofar, he was like, if it be an uncertain sound, who can know what it is?
You know what? Oh, for good.
Oh, thanks. So let me. I'm really trying to understand. So 70 languages. So if I can only understand English. Then I have a person that speaks German and somebody else. So when he was speaking all these languages, I heard what I heard. I heard in my language. They heard in all at the same.
But this is
That's
the
how
Most High.
awesome the Most High is.
That's how powerful He is. You know what I'm saying? Like I was saying last week. If he's the creator,
come on.
If Elder right here speaks French,
right?
Lamar speaks Italian. You speak English. Daryl speaks Spanish.
Right.
Daryl speaks we'll just say gibberish, Chinese.
Right.
Sis speaks Hebrew.
Right.
I speak Greek. And the Most High, the cloud is right here speaking. He's that powerful to where the message will be clear enough for all of us to understand what he said, because he's all powerful.
Because he created them. He the one
created
who
the
set
languages.
the 70 angels.
I think y'all overlooked what the brother said, though.
No, we ain't. I didn't.
Now.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was
Because
understand.
again,
I was just for my own.
Because the power of us not hearing nothing with our ears, but hearing it with our heart is deep.
Yeah, I understand.
Always
Yes.
remember this: us speaking separate languages was a punishment.
Mm.
It was not. That was not a gift. That
Right.
was given to us to make us better.
Yeah.
It was because those of us who chose to rally together to do evil were going to accomplish it because we had the ability to communicate with each other.
Yep.
Exactly.
So he had to confuse our minds to help dilute some of the evil, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that would make it even more sense that the spoken tongue may not necessarily have been the best way to communicate with the masses at that point. It almost makes sense that it would be something that came through the heart, spirit.
Right.
Your willingness to want to do what's being carried out.
Yeah.
Right, because I mean, because if that was the case, again, knowing how powerful it was, he made it a certain way in the beginning for a reason. So if he really had the message that he wanted to convey, he could have just snapped his finger. We'd all understood him in one language.
But it comes to wanting to do the message that's being sent to you.
Well, I say that because we go back to Genesis, and in the original Hebrew, he said light be.
Come on.
And light appeared. So light is an oscillation of sound. And so did he bring light? And we heard it. Or are we focusing on the Webster definition of the word sound?
Come on.
It's the action.
Did he give me light?
Yes.
And so I just say it because it's been talked about study, because sometimes when we teach these things, that's why I bring it like preach. Somebody preached something and I think I heard it, but I didn't hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Did you receive it?
So how come some people got the spirit and some people don't? And we heard the same audible word, but we didn't receive the same
as the message. We didn't receive the spirit. Exactly. Yeah.
And so
What's your message?
Yeah, and so now, the glory is equal to the light. So here comes the light.
Shekinah.
And now I hear things that no one taught me, that no one spoke to me,
That spirit speak.
And
That's the
I don't know
spirit.
what you heard, but I know what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that when the spirit is dealing with you, there ain't no man's certificate
Come on.
or school that's gonna certify you to preach the words of Most High, preach His word.
Because remember, they were following the cloud,
Yes.
and they're following him in the form of a cloud, you know. And so they all have responsibility. When I move, you move.
Exactly.
They've all been taught, you know, different crafts and skills, and but they all knew exactly how to move.
That's right.
What they needed to move.
That's right.
Yeah.
Come on.
You know, but like I said, you know, he says I wrote now, because we're talking about Exodus 21, the 3-day preparation, new life, new covenant, not a new covenant, but we're coming into this covenant now. I'm giving you the law.
Yes.
You know, and you couldn't do whatever you couldn't do before. I'm giving you a law. So now, follow my law. So they all heard it.
Come on.
And it was written on their heart.
Yes.
You know, and so now, all I have to do is bring you light.
To illuminate
The
your
word.
way.
Yeah.
Come on. Yes.
So your light can be able to shine.
Right.
Illuminate the word.
So now let your light shine.
Exactly.
Don't let my, you know.
Exactly, because you received it. You received it.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, most definitely, bro. I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with you. I'm
So
with you.
I didn't want us to get caught, you know, and it may be audible. I just didn't want to
Yeah,
offer
yeah.
that, like.
No, thank you for offering.
No,
this.
no,
trying to make
seriously,
sense of
that
what we read.
perspective-
It's like I can't make sense of this. You spoke 70 words at the same time, you know,
Yeah,
and I can't hear because you talking, you know.
yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, and the thing is that, see, my thing is to hear a different perspective, to hear something, because we can bring it out one way, but we could be missing that aspect which you brought out, which makes
Right.
much sense. It makes sense.
Right.
So who am I to tell you that you're wrong for the Most High? Am I wrong for telling you that you see it that way? Are you wicked for thinking that way? No, you're not. Because the Most High may not be dealing with you the way He's dealing with me or my
Hallelujah.
sister right here.
Hallelujah.
So it's not my job to judge you on something that you're bringing out that you understand the Most High gave to you to share with us.
Right.
That right there can also help us with other aspects of
Yes.
studying.
Yes, it can.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah,
Because the word teaches that.
Iron sharpen iron.
yeah.
I can speak a word that other people can't hear.
Come on.
Because not willing to embrace it.
Yes, and so you have to. It said you have to. He said, "My sheep hear my voice
Hallelujah.
Exactly.
over other voices."
Yeah.
Speak.
Hallelujah.
And so yeah, that can take us to. I have an ability to hear over other audible voices.
Yeah, that's like
because I'm not listening with my audible ear now, but out of all the other
Listening
voices
with
I
your
heard
spirit.
in
Yeah.
my heart,
That's
another word.
and that's why when he was at his hometown,
beautiful.
he was rejected. He said a prophet is hated at home. Know what I'm saying? Because why? He couldn't do no miracles because nobody was willing to receive what he brought to the table. So he couldn't do no miracles. He would not. He would. I mean, it's not that he couldn't do miracles, but when there was so much unbelief, because there was no one willing to receive the message he brought, so there was no miracles being performed. So, but at the same time, while he was there, when there was no miracles being there, was he pointing fingers? No, because he has mercy.
Yes.
Okay, so hopefully somebody stand up and say something or receive the message. Yeah, there was a few that were. Yeah, but was he doing this? No, he wasn't, because Christ represents mercy. See, that's the thing. See, when he came, he understood what Torah meant. That's what we call him, the master teacher. So he understood, and then when he was stressing to Israel, he was stressing to them, which the Most High was always stressing to Israel: have mercy on these. You're not even looking out for one another. You're so quick to use the law to cut, and to throw swords and to just hurt people. No, you're also commanded to have love and mercy. He said to love thy neighbor as you love thyself. You're not showing love for your neighbor when you're picking at them because their head's not covered. I'm sorry.
It's a long time for me to love
But see, though, that's a lack in a person's own individual confidence. And see, that's a story topic for another day.
Yeah.
But I mean, If you got time to worry about what somebody else is doing and what they wearing and how they pronouncing something versus living by this word that you profess to be a professor of or a student of or however you want to label yourself, if you're not executing it with your daily life, that nitpicking you're doing and that bothering people you're doing, you're just like the people that you claim to have been trying to come away from.
Exactly.
So if that's the case, you might stay over there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to read your book a little differently, if you want to study a little differently, that's fine. But I'm sorry, I don't respect nobody that say, okay, I don't go to church on Sunday, I do it on Saturday. Well, that's what's up. But how are you treating your people?
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
How you
still got
walking?
the same attitude that you telling me you trying to get away from.
Mm-hmm.
That you're no different. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're the exact same individual. You're just bringing it over here now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going for it because the reason why I don't put myself in them positions is because I choose not to, and the reason I don't treat people that way is because I choose not to. Therefore, I want to surround myself with like-minded individuals who make that same decision.
Mm-hmm.
Not we read the same word or we read on the same day. That's cool. That's a starting point. But the actual foundation that's being built is based on wanting to be good, able and capable to have an open conversation, disagree while still being respectful.
Exactly.
Like, period.
Wow.
Nothing else past that belongs in the conversation.
That right there spoke volumes. That spoke volumes.
All the way up.
Like Al said to me, disagree to understand.
Hallelujah.
And if you don't have the spirit of understanding, then why just close the book and walk away?
Hey, matter of fact, don't close the book. They got this website, right? It's called meetup.com. You can go up there, you can start your own group. And in the group, you can put, I like to argue. And I guarantee you'll have 20, 30 people sign up for your group. And y'all can rent a room just like this. And y'all can argue about whatever you want to. And then afterwards have milk and cookies. Because everybody in there wanted to be in that circumstance.
Right.
I guarantee you're going to be miserable.
Man.
No, they're going to be happy because that's what they enjoy doing. We would be miserable because we get no joy from that. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's just like I have a little cousin. I'm not going to use his name, but I have a little cousin. He called me 3 times a month. First time he called me, cousin, I can't wait to get in the studio. Second time he called me, oh, cousin, I'm out here getting this money, man. I'm running around doing this and this. Third time he called me, cousin, I should listen to you. Just came to the studio the first time, man. Now I'm in trouble for doing this. But he loves it because I do, here's a plane ticket, here's a house key, here's a code to the computer, here's everything you need. I give you more than I give anybody else right now if you just show up. All you gotta do is show up right now. Show up. Never show up. Because he don't want the right way.
Come on, you
He
can.
wants
His way.
He wants the glory from doing the music, but he wants the thug life. Like that's what he wants. That's what he desires. So he's not miserable getting phone calls from police, getting
Right.
going on a run.
Yep,
breaking
a
his own
person's
cartridge,
actions show
breaking
you
his
what they
collarbone
want.
cartridge, 'cause he
Somebody can
keeps
tell you what they
doing
want
it.
all day, but they showing you
Even
what they
though he
want.
has a person who's
Yeah.
successful in this industry that he wants to join, he doesn't want to do it that way. Because I'm like, yo, it takes work, it takes studio time, it takes writing, it takes studying, it takes this, and this, and this. You need to know music theory, you need to know so much stuff to make an impact. He wants this. So those individuals who revel in that misery, let them. Just let them do it amongst their own congregation and their own fellowship.
You're right.
Because those of us who don't want to, and that's when I was here last time I talked about being aggressive against about what you really believe in. Because those of us who really don't believe in that negativity, sometimes you got to be a little aggressive to that negativity. Look, it's not the place for you.
Hallelujah.
This ain't the room where you got power. Because if you don't, it'll fester and it'll eat at individuals, and it may not eat at you right away. Because you're built a little different to take it, but it might eat at somebody like this.
And that's creating a stumbling block.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's horrible because you might have this person over here who's in the room just looking for fellowship, just looking for love, and they can't receive that even though they were brought to us, and we pride ourselves on delivering just that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you have to be aggressive to remove that negative energy, or else it's going to eat somebody else up, and you just never know who. You know what I mean? You never know who, because everybody's, again, like I said earlier, is not comfortable speaking their truth. They're comfortable speaking somebody else's lesson. They're comfortable speaking about what they can read out the book, but their own individual truth, they're uncomfortable because they don't trust their own information and knowledge. It's not their fault. It's just we have to help them find their comfort zone.
Yep.
And by doing so, that means getting rid of the negative people. That means getting rid of the people who are not willing to understand. And I'm not saying that you got to come in here and everybody got to agree on everything and then be like, oh, oh yeah. Like, no. It's like, look, good opinion. I have this opinion. Okay, we see differently. Okay, now let's move on.
Right.
Like, listen, hear, understand, learn, and then either agree to disagree or find common ground, but always move forward. Because my number one question, I'm gonna start asking people when they start bringing up stuff that I personally can't see the outcome. I'm gonna ask them, what is your goal and outcome for this statement and this attitude?
That's a good thing.
And I put that out there because all day long I hear people arguing about whether the earth is flat, whether the earth is round. I'm like, that's what's up. I love y'all scientific debates. What's the goal?
Thank you.
What's the purpose?
What's the end game?
Yeah, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
Whether we find out it's round or we find out it's flat and we're in the dome, like, you guys, what's the end game? What are we really accomplishing? Oh, what that means now we know we lied to them. Well, according to y'all, you guys already believe in your heart they're lying.
That's right.
So, are you trying to convince me that you believe that I'm being lied to? How do you know I don't already believe that just about a different subject? Like, what is our actual end game here? Where are we trying to go? Are we trying to rally our people behind the fact that, oh, look, the government lied? Or are we trying to rally our people behind the fact that we've been fed false information? Both of which things that we already feel regardless of the topic. So what is our goal as a people? Like, what is our goal as information givers? What is our goal as people that have the ability to reach others? Like literally, what is the purpose? Like, congregation has a purpose because we're sharing information and we want to see each other get better, whether it's more knowledgeable, whether it's receiving healing, whether it's receiving understanding, whether it's just fellowshipping, whatever it is. We have a goal of betterment when you part of a congregation without negativity. So when people bring that negative side, because again, somebody might blow your brain back and be like, this, and you might be like, dang, I agree. But they have to have the ability to say that, or else they're just blowing smoke.
Right. And to land back off of what you said, and then to close out, what constitutes a Sabbath? Leviticus 23, just verse 3 real quick. It says, 6 days work is done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, a set-apart gathering. You do no work. It is a Sabbath to Yahweh in all your dwellings. I'm going to get to what you said, the land back. But like you said, what we're doing here is we're being better. We're coming together and fellowshipping. And we always talk about the Sabbath. But what constitutes a Sabbath is you rest or you cease, right? And then you have a holy convocation, which is a fellowship, which is a gathering, right? And then you do no occupational work for money, right? That's pretty much what it is. And coming together is what we're doing. So, like you were just saying, when you're focused on what everybody else is doing or not doing, that means you're not focusing on your personal relationship that you're supposed to have with the Most High. When you spend more time on somebody else, you're spending less time with the Father in order for the Father to get you in right ruling and right standing with Him. You know, we're supposed to be praying, studying, meditating. Also, you brought up a good point. When BA and I, or Lamar, or Brother Daryl, or anybody comes up here in front of us, we're being used as vessels to bring information. What you're supposed to do is go back and verify, validate everything we say. You're supposed to take that to the Most High, test the Spirit by the Spirit, right? To see if what we're bringing is so. And that builds one another up. I'd like to say this lastly. I'm not here to convince. I'm not here to persuade. That's not my job. I can't do it. Right? John 16, verse 13. Actually, let me say this. John 16, verse 13. But when He comes, the Spirit of truth, He shall guide you into all the truth. For He shall not speak from Himself, but whatever He hears, He shall speak, and He shall announce to you what is to come. The Holy Spirit, that's the convictor. That's the ultimate reprover. That's the ultimate who's going to lead you and guide you into all truth. Just please take any information we bring, study for yourself.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah,
please. I love that because I couple that with we're here. We honor Shabbat
Hallelujah.
as best we can.
Yes.
And we understand what Shabbat is, and there's worship, fellowship, all involved.
Right.
But we don't forget that there's an open invitation.
Hallelujah.
Because Matthew 11, 25, 26, it says, he says, come to me, like you just read, all ye who labor.
Yes.
Matthew 12, yep.
Right.
And he says, and I will
give you rest.
Hallelujah.
So to convince people that you can't work and come here, then you provided no invitation.
Come on.
Because if you are working and you're heavy laden, then come to me
and I will
for
give
the
you rest.
Yes.
Don't say, well, you're not worthy to be here. Don't make people feel uncomfortable. I can't speak. I can't do it because I'm not doing Shabbat like you do, because all you talk about is a laundry list of work that I can't do. And then don't give me no invitation to rest.
Yeah.
But Yeshua says, come to me.
And I will give you rest.
And I'll give you rest. I'll teach you how to rest.
And that foundation which you just brought up, that is what I learned from Judah and Zadok and Tim and Ephraim and the rest of the brothers in Buffalo, New York. It's not about always pointing the finger.
No.
It's about providing that service to the Most High for those who are in need.
Yes.
It's like my brother said, if people don't want to come, or if you don't have a purpose, or you don't understand your own agenda, or you're causing people to stumble and not come.
Yeah.
Then what good are you doing?
Come on.
Yeah.
Because everybody don't go from 0 to 100.
That's right.
We go from 30, 60 to 100.
Yeah. Some of us
go
go from
0.
we start at 0. You go to 0 to 5. Some people go to 5 to 15. Some people go 5 to 27. The point is, we're provoking each other to righteousness.
Yes.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Respect the process.
When you see people growing, congratulate them. Praise the Most High for that.
Yes.
But when you want to when you're always looking for something that doesn't resonate with you personally, or when we're up here teaching and somebody just wants to find something, I'm going to see what he finna say. I'm going to see what she finna say. I'm going to see what this brother finna say. And as soon as it disagrees with my personal view, I'm going to...
What I always find is people have their one pet scripture, and nothing else applies.
Yeah.
So like the donkey in the ditch, you got one Shabbat scripture, and you didn't ditch the rest of it.
You know what? It's funny you say that. Hold up. And I'm gonna read this, and I gotta go because I ain't gonna lie. My father is going crazy. My wife's birthday today. I got emergencies happening, and I got people sitting in my driveway. It's crazy. And I ain't even that good at memory, so I know I'm messing numbers up. So I'm gonna just say it on top of my head.
We could.
It's cool. My friend dad taught me this because when I was a teenager, I had a bad temper. But he taught me this. He was like, a soft tongue is slow to anger. Hold on. A soft tongue is slow to anger, or basically what it meant was basically
look it up in the
be
Proverbs.
easy with your words.
Yep.
Cause
A soft answer to a wrath.
yeah, because you know what I'm saying. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Because if you can speak to someone with respect and openness, they'll listen. And I say that to bring it all the way back to where we started from today's lesson. When Moses' father-in-law, and everybody came to sit down and sit with him and sup with him, and then the foreigner came in and had dinner and professed his faith and was like, look, and told just say the words, I know it's done, but then was like, all right, but look, you can tighten it up like this. Remember what we said earlier? Because they listened to each other.
Yes.
They had a conversation. They
Hallelujah.
was willing to talk in the same room. So now, instead of you just being happy that you allowed this person to be brought to the word, you also just got some gain from this person. Now you can tighten up your organizational skills to where now when you go out there and get the next 100 people, it's going to run like a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
Because you're willing to talk and listen and understand that we all have been put here by the Father, which means we all have a purpose.
Hallelujah.
You know what I'm saying? So let's not treat each other like just because I'm into the word right now and you're not. You're interested.
Excuse me.
you're always my equal. Period.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
And the thing is, what you just spoke on, Daryl. Those are things I learned from being around you and Ashanti all these years. Those are things I had to learn as time progressed. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't get it right away. Because there have been times where we've all had our disagreements. But I know for a fact that, you know what I'm saying, that you guys know me. You know my intent. You know that I don't have any ill wills behind the things I believe in. Or I'm not going to go after anybody. You guys just know, okay, little bro, we just going to listen here. And
Plus, first come around me, they might come over paper thin, but they gonna leave another jacket. I treat everybody the same.
Yeah,
exactly.
You sensitive or not, you're gonna get talked to one way, and that's straightforward. And if you can't take it, you're gonna have to learn how.
Exactly.
You want to keep coming around, because I don't expect you to be like,
thank you,
him high and talk to me this kind of way, because I'm not gonna hear you.
Yeah.
Unless you tell me like, hey man, you know that left turn you made was wrong. Was it? Dang it. You know what I mean? Like, if you like, I don't know if this is the right way, I'm gonna keep driving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't, you ain't really saying nothing solid to make me think I'm in the wrong yet.
Yeah.
Until you say, you know what, that left turn you made was wrong, brother. You really need to keep going straight.
right,
Yeah.
Bam, cool, I got it.
right,
But to me, that's the only way to communicate with each other. When we start trying to be like, I really can't talk to you because I don't know how you're going to take it. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What do you mean, how's he going to take it? He's going to take it like you're giving it, which is, if it's truthful, they're going to take it that way. If you giving negativity and hate, then you know what you're getting back.
Yeah, you know you're going to get what you put in, is what you get out.
Right. You know what energy you're giving out, so you know what you're giving back. My voice might go up here and all there, but I always speak from my heart, so people know I'm giving out love, period. I'm saying, I'd never get questioned about that. I'd never have anybody be like, man, why you don't like me? You know what I'm saying? Some people be like, man, you kind of straightforward. Like, yeah, but they never ask me why I don't like you. You know what I'm saying? Because they know. I mean it from here.
Yeah.
Okay? And if I don't, I'm not even going to talk to you.
yeah,
Yeah. That's one thing about the torch.
Like, it's just
Straight up.
it's consistency
Yeah.
around the board.
Yeah.
Because, like when this brother spoke last time, when he was talking about everybody bringing out the educated within themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Powerful statement right there. Because, like I said, how many people are scared of that person? How many people are afraid of that scholar inside themselves? You know what I'm saying? I got a coworker, she been at the job way longer than me. I go to ask her a question, she be get to clamming up. And I'm like, dude, trust your information. You know what you're doing. It's a reason why the boss tell us to come ask you.
yeah,
You do good work. Like she's like, oh, I just be so nervous. I'm not used to telling. It's cool. You're not telling me nothing. You're giving me advice, and we're discussing the best way to approach the situation.
They may help me out.
Like,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
It's okay the fact that you know what you're doing. Like, don't be afraid that don't be afraid of your knowledge. Don't be afraid of your inner scholar. Like, embrace that. Like, it's a beautiful thing when you embrace who you were made to be.
Yep.
Hallelujah.
That is true. And
So-
I'm starting to learn that myself now. Starting to learn that myself.
Coach Corner.
right.
Huh?
We hope that something that we brought out today was edifying. Always in love. I appreciate this Sabbath day. This was fun, and thank you all. If there's any questions or concerns later in the week, hit me up on my phone or my email. I'm here.
Yep.
I'm here.
You can reach me at 916-maccabee@gmail.com. Facebook, B.A. Ben Abraham. Instagram, B.A. Ben Abraham. B.A. the Student on YouTube. Much love to everybody. And shalom, Israel. Much love to all.
Shalom.
Oh, you can also reach them at thebearddoctor.com.
You are crazy.
Bearddoctor.com. Blackhead.net. And I'm goingbald.gov.
Shalom. May the peace of the Most High be with you. May Yahweh lift up His face on you and show you His favor. With that, we say shalom, shalom. Oh man.